We have a gentleman that has a huge background via multiple states. Just going through some of the Wisconsin cases, they're violent. We have substantial battery, DC, strangulation, suffocation, resisting. Pending cases, which the statute I just read references that I should consider: second degree, reckless endangering safety while armed, felon in possession of a firearm. Attorney Opper told me that the gun apparently was a stolen handgun. Those are allegations. He's out on bail on that. Also out on bail on the Milwaukee case ending 4596, where he's charged with second-degree reckless endangering safety, disorderly conduct and battery, and resisting. And then we get into Nevada: battery, domestic violence, the sexual assault, the sex offender registration violation, and then the battery in Georgia. Other considerations are, on WCS, their report indicates level 4 monitoring, which is the highest level of monitoring that we have. And in that report, it does indicate there have been failures to appear other than 2 years old, and then sentenced to incarceration prior, yes. Current violent felony, yes, or offense, yes. Pending charges at the time of this offense, yes. Prior misdemeanor convictions, yes. Prior felony convictions, yes. Prior violent conduct or conviction, yes. Prior violent convictions, 3 or more. So there have been missed court dates, although none in the past 2 years, but then we just heard about a rather significant duration of a 6-month stay in Georgia, in custody there. Resisting, again, these are things that would cause me to feel that this gentleman does not follow rules very well. Orders of the court, orders of society, resisting an officer. There's a bail jump in 2012. There's a bail jump charged in the 4596 case. There is in the 2550 case, again, the felon in possession of a firearm. All those things are just societal, legal issues, also orders of the court in some instances that are not being followed. While out on bail on 2 rather significant allegations, we are now faced with 5 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. I believe you are a flight risk. There's failure to follow court orders. This allegation, although the motive is not known, and I'm not entitled to know what that is, but it looks like there was either panic or whatever, or an intentional act for whatever reason. You don't do well under pressure. The Milwaukee County case talks about, as Attorney Opper indicated, you using a vehicle to run over another person with your vehicle. So you don't respond well to what is common sense within our community, our society. I'm an old guy who has been doing this for almost 40 years. DA's office, criminal defense attorney, 17, 18 years as a commissioner, both in Milwaukee and now in Waukesha. And I've not seen anything like this in my very long career, with an extraordinary history of this gentleman, of fleeing, of hurting people, of not following court orders, not following criminal laws, not following just your societal norms.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thanks for stopping by. So I promised you guys that I would go through the arrest history of Darrell Brooks. And that is what this video will be all about. It's going to be a long video because I have over 100 little slides here to go through. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, some tea, whatever you'd like, get settled in, and I'm going to take you on the journey of this pathetic life of a man. So let's keep in mind that his arrest history, juvenile history, was anything prior to 1999. The information we do have before he turned 18 was that Dawn Wood had given some information to the FBI, and this is what she stated. Wood stated that Brooks attended Milwaukee public schools and during his childhood and was expelled from numerous schools as a result of behavioral outbursts. While a student, Brooks was subject to an independent educational plan due to his mental health and learning disabilities. The final school Brooks attended and was subsequently expelled from was Milwaukee Tech High School. During many of his school outbursts, MPS staff would transport him to the Milwaukee mental health facility associated with Children's Hospital. At the age of 17 in 1999, Darrell Brooks Jr. is charged with substantial battery in Milwaukee.
Two huge questions tonight. Why did he do it, and why wasn't he in jail?
He has arrest record from 3 states, to include Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia. Starting with the state of Wisconsin, the record begins in 2000. There was a conviction in that year for substantial battery, party to a crime. A prison sentence was imposed but stayed for 3 years probation and 6 months condition time. 2002, conviction for possession of marijuana as a repeat offender, sentenced to 50 days in the House of Correction. 2003, misdemeanor conviction for resisting obstructing, sentenced to 20 days in the House of Correction. 2005, there's an arrest from Langlade County. Ultimately, he was convicted of a county ordinance violation for disorderly conduct. What's remarkable about that is that he failed to pay the fine, so he was ordered to serve 30 days in jail on the non-payment.
On 3/29 of 05, Darrell E. Brooks was arrested in the parking lot of Mayfield Mall for possession of stolen property and possession of a Schedule IV controlled substance. Police Officer Richardson was on patrol when I did observe a silver-colored 1990 Chevy Lumina approaching the West Center Street. A DOT check revealed that the vehicle was reported as stolen through the Langdon County Sheriff's Office. As I followed the vehicle to await the arrival of assistance officers, the vehicle made a left turn to go eastbound onto the Mayfield Mall parking lot. I activated my emergency lights, and the vehicle stopped on the south side of the Cheesecake Factory, which is located in the lot of the Mayfield Mall. At this time, Police Officer Geisler, and Police Sergeant Raymond arrived to assist. The driver, identified as Darrell E. Brooks, was then taken into custody without incident. Upon searching the vehicle, incident to an arrest, I found a prescription pill bottle containing which appeared to be various prescription medications. This bottle was found in the right pocket of Brooks's black jacket, which was sitting in the driver's seat at the time. I asked Brooks if the jacket was his. He stated it was, and asked if I would bring it along because he was cold. Brooks was then transported. Can you imagine, y'all? What he said at the time. I'm cold. It's all about me. Brooks was then transported to the Wauwatosa. Oh, these names, they kill me. I'm sorry. Brooks was then transported to the Wauwatosa Police Department for processing. Police Officer Warren stayed with the vehicle until Dennis Towing arrived to remove it. At the Wauwatosa Police Department, Brooks was booked by Police Officer Geisler and myself. I then contacted the listing owner of the vehicle, and I'm going to take out her name, but I'm going to use her first name only, and her first name is Misty, and informed her that we had recovered her vehicle. She confirmed that she had reported it stolen, and she did want Brooks prosecuted. At 1:41 a.m., I placed Brooks in interview room number 1. Also, side note, if you see any of the pages here blurred out, it's because there might be something on the page that I had not redacted before I went live or before I started recording this, so that's why. I wanted to make sure that we didn't get anybody else's name that probably shouldn't be out there. You know what I mean? I read Brooks his constitutional rights word for word. He stated that he understood his rights, but he refused to answer any questions or make a statement. Police Officer Geiser and I then transported Brooks to the Milwaukee County Criminal Justice Facility, where he is being held for stolen property and possession of Schedule IV narcotics. I took the pills that I had recovered from Brooks's jacket, placed them into evidence, and secured them in Locker 7. This is the same incident, different officer. On 3/29/05, Officer Gleiser was assigned I, this is from Geisler, was assigned as an assisting officer to this complaint. Officer Richardson had recovered several different pills from Brooks and asked if I would go to the Walgreens and have a pharmacist identify the pills. Richardson handed me a Walgreens prescription pill bottle with the name Misty on it. The bottle also had a prescription number. The bottle contained a total of 32 various pills. I took possession of the pill bottle containing all the pills and went to Walgreens. I spoke with the pharmacist. He identified the pills for me. They are as follows. Okay, this is a big word. 20 furantoin capsules. They're basically an antibiotic. It's 100 milligrams. 7 Zoloft tablets, 100 milligram, for treatment of depression and anxiety. 1 etidolic tablet. It's similar to ibuprofen. There was 400 milligrams of it. It's used for aches and pains. 1 Narvask tablet, 10 milligrams, a blood pressure medicine. And 3 I know the name of this. 3 clonazepam, 0.5 milligrams of that, used for seizures and panic disorders. The pharmacist told me that the clonazepam is a controlled substance. He said that it's similar to Valium, but it lasts longer. The pharmacist handed me an information sheet for all of these drugs, and clonazepam was listed as a Schedule IV controlled substance. When I was done talking with the pharmacist, I took all the pills and went back to the Wauwatosa Police Department. I handed Officer Richardson the pill bottle containing the pills and passed on the information that the pharmacist had given me. Same police report, you guys. Now, I don't know what time this was, but I kind of feel like a little bit of time had gone by, and let's guess that he'd gotten a hold of her on the phone. Let's just guess this, okay? Because it says, I contacted the owner of the stolen vehicle, Misty. She advised me that she no longer wanted to pursue charges against her boyfriend, Darrell Brooks. She stated that she just wanted her car back and that she really had no way to travel back and forth between Antigua and Milwaukee for court appearances. She did confirm that all the pills that were recovered on his person had been prescribed to her. I had the matter of the POCS informally reviewed by ADA Mark Sanders. He agreed it would be impractical to pursue possession of stolen property and that the matter of the pills could be dealt with by a municipal citation. I released the holds we had on Brooks and issued him a citation with bail set at $660 and a plea date set for April 20th of 2005. Okay, so this is a misdemeanor. Sparks Municipal Court. It says sentencing disposition was November 3rd of 2006. This must have been the outcome from that other one we just looked at. Possession of a controlled substance, failure to appear, and obstructing an officer. And then he's got an obstruction in November 2022 of 2006. This is a supplemental report, okay? Erica was identified as another person involved in a violent domestic disturbance reported by Joseph, who resulted in Darrell Brooks fleeing from officers. Okay, this is a different person, I think. It's a different girl. So let me, because I kind of went over some of these myself before I read them here today. And I remember seeing that there was another person that he had a relationship with, that he was assaulting. Someone, it's redacted, confirmed and did have visible injuries indicating that a domestic battery had occurred. This has got to be Erica, though, because wasn't that other one 1122? Is also a witness to Darrell running from officers. She said she heard Darrell tell her as officers approached the area that he could not stick around prior to warning, indicating that Darrell clearly knew it was police officers pursuing him. A written statement from Erica was obtained, and it included the case number. Her backpack, which was held for safekeeping, was returned to her prior to being placed in the evidence section. She told me that the address which Darrell provided me was incorrect. Darrell had lied to me. Darrell has not resided at that address for several months and is currently homeless and often resides in homeless shelters in the area. Therefore, I am modifying this case to indicate a non-fixed address. I have nothing further to report at this time. Okay, so I took all of that out because this is a different person. This is a different individual who wrote this report, okay? At approximately 8:15 p.m., I observed a couple on the opposite of Victorian. That must be a street. He was more of, this is hard to read because this handwriting is hard to read. All right. I'm putting this up so you can see it, okay? This is 11/22/06. This is the one where this guy saw them on the opposite side of the street. And he said something like he was walking in front of her and almost dragging her. She was verbally upset with him, and she did not seem to want to go with him. She was trying to stop walking, and he was pulling at her, something to her which I could not hear, and then proceeded to drag her along with him. So that was a witness to him being abusive to her. Okay. Finally, something I can read. All right, so 11/22/06. Dispatch advised, this was 8:05 p.m. Dispatch advised that an officer was in foot pursuit on a separate channel of the radio. Officers speaking on the radio were advising that the foot pursuit was taking place near the area of Rock Boulevard and Prater Way. The suspect was described as a black male who was possibly involved in a violent domestic battery. I arrived in the area of Rock Boulevard and F Street in order to block any escape route that the suspect may have. As I got out of my car and started walking down the sidewalk, I could hear the trashing of leaves and bushes in the front yard of a house. I walked in the front yard of the house and shined my flashlight into the front yard where I saw a black man hiding in the bushes. He immediately started to run to the rear of the house around the west side of the building. I went over the west side and in order to see where the suspect went and could not find him. As I stood on the side of the house, I heard a person jump over the back fence and into the alley. I could hear the sound of running footsteps going west through the alleyway. So I jumped up onto the back fence and saw the suspect running through the alley. I began to chase him through the alley, and he ran southbound across Prater Way, inhibiting the traffic flow and through the parking lot of Flower Bucket Florist on the corner of Rock Boulevard and Prater Way. The suspect, later identified as Darrell Brooks, Jr., ran into the northbound traffic lanes while still running southbound. I was able to catch up to him in the middle of the street in front of 400 Rock Boulevard. I was able to take him down to the ground so that he could be handcuffed. When we both went to the ground, the gold cap that covered his front teeth popped out of his mouth and landed on the street. While I was trying to gain control of his arms in order to handcuff him, he reached out and grabbed the gold cap and put it back into his mouth, onto his front teeth. By this time, Officer Atkins was there to assist me, and we were able to place him into handcuffs. Do you guys remember a while back I did a video of him when he was arrested or when he was in jail and he did that documentary? He did like a piece of a documentary in jail. If you haven't seen it on my channel, you probably saw it on somebody else's channel, but anyway, he had gold teeth then. And he seemed to be way younger then. So this has to have been around the same time period. So it says on 11/22/06, Lieutenant Hawkins advised me that he had been flagged down by a male in the area and about a possible domestic assault and battery. Sparks Police Dispatch advised that they had a pending call in the area and a domestic assault and battery. It was a black male being described as wearing a white t-shirt and red jacket and a female in a tan leather coat. I was driving southbound on Rock at approximately D Street when I observed two people matching the physical description that had been given. I advised Lieutenant Hawking, and he and I both went northbound on Rock Boulevard. Initially, we could not see the couple, but located them walking northbound through the eastern portion of the parking lot at Krogan. Lieutenant Hawkins and I both stopped for the light northbound Rock at Prater. When the light turned green, Lieutenant Hawkins turned left, and the two subjects, later identified as the subject in this case, Darrell Brooks, and a female identified as Erica Patterson, began to walk into the crosswalk. However, as soon as Brooks observed the police cars, he quickly turned and walked southbound. I made a U-turn at the light and attempted to cut him off as he walked southbound on the sidewalk. I had activated my overhead lights and was driving a marked patrol unit. Brooks then ran briefly northbound on Rock Boulevard and ran eastbound down Prater Way in the lanes of traffic. As Brooks began to run, he took off a backpack and the red jacket he was wearing and ran eastbound. There was light traffic on Prater Way, and some vehicles had to be avoided during the foot pursuit. As I continued running eastbound on Prater, the suspect headed through the parking lot at Bud's garage and then turned northbound between two houses. The suspect ran northbound between the houses and then turned left and ran back westbound. Due to the dangers involved in a foot pursuit, I broke off the foot pursuit and began to call for units to establish a perimeter. As a perimeter was being established, Officers Kevin Lake and John Patton arrived in the area to assist. Officer Lake and Patton engaged in a foot pursuit with Mr. Brooks. Brooks was eventually taken into custody. Officers attempted to locate a female, but they were unable to do so. I returned to the area where Brooks had been taken into custody. Officer Adkins was conducting a search pursuant to Brooks' arrest. I walked back northbound and located several items of property on the southeast corner of the intersection. Included there was a backpack, a red jacket with a hood, and a small black purse. I retrieved the property and returned to the area where Brooks had been arrested. Brooks immediately claimed the backpack as his and stated that all of his belongings were in it. I began to check the purse for possible identification for proof of ownership and located several pieces of information with the name of Erica Patterson. Officers had conducted a computer check of Sparks Police Department records. Those records indicated that she was the victim of a statutory, seduction case involving Brooks. Several addresses were checked for her, but she was unable to be located.
I'd like the court to be aware of a record from the state of Nevada. We'll go to Nevada first. That happened, the first conviction was from December 11th of 2006. He was found guilty at trial of a misdemeanor count for obstructing an officer, was sentenced to jail in Nevada. Also on that same day of December 11, 2006, he pled guilty to a domestic battery as a misdemeanor, and the court there ordered a suspended sentence.
August the 29th of 2006, at approximately 8:03 p.m., myself and Officer Marsh responded to an apartment to do a knock and talk. This was the address given by a person that I arrested on 8/24 of 06 for attempted sales of a controlled substance and attempted sales of controlled substance to a minor. During that incident, I was told that he resided at the location with some other people. I knocked on the door, which was already ajar, and Daryl Brooks was sitting on the bed. From inside the apartment, Darrell invited myself and Officer Marsh inside. As we walked in, Daryl looked at us and placed his left hand inside his pocket. I asked Daryl a couple of times to remove his hand from his pocket, which he eventually did. Daryl told me that he did not reside there, rather he lived upstairs in apartment 119. Daryl told me that he was just hanging out and that he was friends with the person, Victor, whom I arrested. Officer Marsh detected an odor of marijuana inside the apartment and questioned Daryl about it. Daryl admitted that he was smoking a joint when he walked in and that he did not realize it was the police when he asked us to come in. Daryl said that he actually had marijuana in his hand, and that was why he placed his hand in his pocket. Officer Marsh requested that Daryl stand up and face away from him, which he did. Officer Marsh asked Daryl again if he had marijuana in his pocket, and he said that he did. At this time, Daryl reached into his pocket. I ordered Daryl to remove his hand from his pocket for our safety as well as his. Daryl refused, at which time I took hold of his left arm. He began to pull away from the officer and myself. Officer Marsh and I gained some control of Daryl and forced him against a soft chair in the corner of the room to regain some control of him. Daryl refused to remove his left hand from his pocket, which I could not see. I ordered Daryl several times as I did not know if he had a weapon in his pocket, that he was attempting to retreat. I did grab a hold of Daryl's wrist. I could feel him trying to pull away from me, however. I overcame his resistance and brought his hand around the small of his back. Officer Marsh eventually took control of his right hand, and I placed handcuffs on him. Darrell said that he did that because he was nervous and had marijuana in his pocket, and he didn't want to get caught. I noticed that the chair where we had put Darrell against to try to regain control of him and where he had his hand in his pocket had the chair pad ajar as if it had been pushed back. Due to not knowing if Daryl had placed a weapon at that location, and for our own safety, I conducted a cursory search of that area under the chair pad and located a plastic bag containing 14 bundles of a green leafy substance that later tested presumptively positive for marijuana with a gross weight of 9.9 grams. Daryl immediately became very upset when I removed it and said several times that it was not his. Daryl stated that Victor sells marijuana, but he only smokes it. Officer Marsh conducted a search incident to arrest and did not locate any marijuana on Daryl. I questioned Daryl as to why he had earlier put the marijuana in his pocket and now it was missing, and that I happened to find it exactly where he refused to keep his hands out of his pocket. Daryl said he didn't know where it went, but it was definitely was not his. Loser. I explained to Darrell, when we entered the apartment, he placed his hands in his pocket, and he later said that he did this because he had marijuana and did not want us to see, and placed it in his pocket, and that as the officer was going to retrieve it, he once again placed his hand into his pocket and refused to remove it, and after struggling with officers, the chair pad where he had his hand in his pocket, and his hand eventually overcome and removed from his pocket, a baggie containing the marijuana that I found was in the exact location where he was. Sorry that sounds confusing, guys. Daryl became very uncooperative and at that point refused to stay seated in the chair. He continued to insist that the marijuana was not his and that he had done nothing wrong. Daryl also denied having to resisted police. He is such a habitual liar. After Daryl calmed down further, I spoke with him regarding Victor. Daryl provided me a substantial amount of information regarding Victor and his activities. Because of this, I determined that I was not going to take Darrell to jail, but rather that he was just going to be receiving a citation. Darrell apologized for resisting officers and said that he did have a bundle of marijuana in his pocket, however, denied that the baggie that I had located was his. Darrell said he could not explain where that bundle would have gone. I booked the green leafy substance into evidence at the Sparks Police Department. Darrell was issued a citation and released. Now we're going to look over at Marsh's supplemental report. It says the disposition of the case was cleared by single adult arrest. So he threw his friend under the bus really quick, didn't he? We know he'll do that to get himself out of any kind of trouble. Okay, now this is a new case. Let's see. This is Michelle. I wonder if this is the same Michelle that did the testimony for him, or what do you call it? Oh, what do you call it? What do you call it? The same Michelle that stood up and said, he's a great person. Okay, October 2006 was when this was written. On September 28th of 2006, I was assisting with another detective searching for a runaway in reference to case number blah, 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 named Erica Patterson. He had received information that she may be located at this address. I had previously contacted with the occupant of this residence, Hassan, I'm just going to say his first name, in reference to other runaways being housed at his residence. I had previous contact with the occupant of this residence, Hassan, in reference to other runaways being housed at his residence. You guys. Wow. Okay. So then when we arrived at the apartments, he showed both the staff members at the apartment complex a photo of Erica, and they confirmed that they had seen her in the office. They were at the apartments, and then she walked to apartment 109. I attempted to contact at the door. I was in the area looking for the rear slider and could see the blinds moving and could hear people moving inside of the apartment. The other detective did not receive a response at all at the front door and then verbalized to the occupants inside to come to the door and open it. However, they refused. Based on the information that we possessed, that Erica was 15 years old and possibly pregnant by an adult male and being housed in the apartment, Detective D and I decided to make entry into the apartments as there was an exigency. Exigency. I'm going to say an urgency to ensure the welfare of this child. I summoned patrol officers to the scene, and Officer Rodriguez and Officer Hale later responded. Officer Hale brought a master key for the apartment so that we could facilitate entry. Numerous attempts were made to use the key on the door. However, it was apparent that someone on the other side of the door was preventing the lock from coming open, as you could feel them manually resisting the lock when you would turn the key. I then contacted Sergeant Gardella via radio and told him that we need a ram to get through the door, and he stated that he would have someone respond with a ram to manually breach the door. It says, prior to entry, an occupant of the apartment named Michelle arrived and talked to her roommates Hassan and Jay inside the apartment. Now remember, guys, Darrell was sometimes referred to as Jay. She called him on her cell phone, and they finally came to the door. They were detained once they exited, and Erica Patterson was located inside. I detained the Erica and took her to the south side of the building where she was out of sight and out of earshot of the two other male occupants. I told her that we were looking for her as she was a runaway and was quite concerned. Her mother probably was quite concerned about her, and she stated she understood. I told her that she was not under arrest. She informed me that she had been dating Jay since approximately March of 2006, describing having underage union with him on many occasions, and stated that on September the 11th of 2006, she found out that she was pregnant with his child after going to the Pyramid Health Center. I told her that I would do an audio videotape interview with her at the station, and I told her that we would be transporting her to the station. Detective D, oh, and before anybody asks me, can you get a hold of those tapes? I'm going to say no, guys, because she was a minor at the time, so I don't even think they would allow us to have them. And it's been a long time, so the fact that they probably don't keep them that long. Detective D spoke with Suspect J, who is Darrell Brooks, and I spoke briefly with Hassan prior to him going to jail for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Hassan said that he knew Jay was dating Erica. I asked Hassan why he would not open the door on today's date for us. I told Hassan that it was strange that I was there under similar circumstances the last time I talked to him, and he did not say anything and just hung his head. Hassan was transported to Par Boulevard from the apartment and booked for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I asked patrol officers to transport Darrell to the station as well for an interview. Once here at the station, I conducted an audio videotape interview with Erica. The following is a synopsis of the interview. So at least we have that, right? She stated that something name is, and that they reside at the Lincoln Arms apartment in Sparks. She said she has a brother named Justin who is 23 years of age. She stated that name is Michael, and he is currently living in Oakland. Something about a Michael living in Oakland, California. Stated that, you guys can see these redactions. I don't know if it makes sense. She stated that she was born in Oakland, California, and moved to Sparks approximately 4 years ago. She said that she was living with somebody, Maudie Patterson, for quite some period of time, and provided me with that phone number. I asked her about her boyfriend, Jay, and asked her what his real name was. She replied it was Darrell Brooks, and told me that somebody had told Darrell Brooks on previous occasions that she was 15 years of age. I'm thinking that she's saying Cecilia and Maudie Patterson. And she stated that he did not care. She said that she met Darrell in March of 2006 and at the Nugget Arcade, and they started dating at that time. I asked her if she knew how old Darrell was, and she said she still does not know, as he told her he was 20, 23, and 20. As he has told her that he is 20, 23, 24, and 25. I'm just going to pause and let that sink in for everybody for a moment. She told me that when she first met Jay, she introduced herself to him as 18 years of age. She stated that her family told Jay that she was 15 years of age when Jay called her grandmother's house in approximately March of 2006. She stated that Jay called somebody and asked her, is Erica 18? And Maudie replied by telling him that she was in fact 15 years of age. I asked her about sexual frequency with him, and she said that she typically saw him every 4 days, and when they saw each other, they would get together. She described to me that she provided a urine sample at the health center, and they informed her she was pregnant. I asked her how she knew it was Jay's child, and she said that she had not been with anybody else around the time of conception, and it had to be Darrell's. She described to me that Jay never wore a condom and that they had sex and he was always very careless, let's put it that way. She described wanting to have a baby with Jay. Now, this is the scary part. This is the really scary part. She says she describes wanting to have a baby with Jay, describing herself as being very close with him and loving him a lot. She was 15 years old, you guys. He got her back then. That's why she couldn't let go of him. He knew what to say. He knew how to get her to do what he wanted her to do. You cannot blame her for any of this. I get so angry when people jump at her, but do I think she gets it now? I absolutely think she gets it now. It took her time. She had to get away from him and kind of look at everything from a third eye, to see what was really going on there. And she finally has done that now. So we have to give her credit for that. She also told me that Blank also told Jay that she was 15 years of age on several occasions. I think she's stating family members' names when they're redacting that. I placed a phone call after the interview to Maudie Patterson and identified myself to her and asked her about a phone call that she had received in the spring of 2006 from Jay in reference to Erica's age. Maudie Patterson confirmed that Jay had asked her if Erica was 18, and she replied that she wasn't and that she was 15 years of age. Subsequent to the interview, Erica was released to a family member. I also obtained consensual buccal swabs from Erica and also obtained a medical release from the health center so that we could obtain her medical records. Now, whoever wrote this, their names have been redacted out, but we'll probably figure it out. So let's go. Okay, so I first became aware of someone being involved with a guy who I thought was 19 years old in late July. So I'm assuming that redaction is Erica's name. My son had told me that on something, a cousin, is that a cousin? I'd seen Jay and Erica, or maybe that's Hassan's house. One Saturday afternoon in late July or early August, redacted, was arguing on the phone. It's got to be Erica. When I asked who she was talking to, she said, Jay. I snatched the phone. I thought he called her a bitch, so I immediately began yelling at him, threatening to have him sent to jail because she was only 15 years old. His response was, whatever, man, and hung up. Isn't that his favorite response when people jump his crap? On 9/24 after work, I came home to find Erica on the phone. She said Jay had just called her a slut, tramp, and whore. I grabbed the phone and said to Jay that he needs to convince her not to have the baby. He said he had tried to. I told him that by him continuing to talk to her, he was jeopardizing his freedom, and my advice to him is to stop returning her calls. I told him that I was not trying to send him to jail, but I wanted Erica to be okay. Then I hung up. Jay knew how old she was, and despite my plea for him to stop encouraging her, he continued calling and even picking her up from school. So that was it was either her mom or her grandmother that wrote that, I'm assuming. And then this is just a overview of the Sparks Police Department. So they're saying contributing. His bail was only $56.15. All right, so this is the time of this supplemental was September 29th of 2006. On September 27th, 2006, I was contacted by P.A. Dilk, who told me that she had a runaway report. She told me that the runaway juvenile was a 15-year-old female that had recently been at the doctor and had found out she was pregnant. Dilk told me that her family had been calling with some possible addresses for her. I then telephoned them. While speaking with her on the phone, she told me that Erica had been missing for about 5 days and that this behavior is very out of character for her. She told me that Erica has a boyfriend that is supposedly the father of the unborn child and that she was concerned because he is 21 years old. So it sounds to me when she says that like Erica wasn't a bad kid, you know? So it's not like this was something that was occurring. She wasn't acting out before Darrell. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. She identified the male as Jay, stating that he is from back east and thought there might be a possibility that both of them would be leaving the state together. Erica then provided me with this person then provided me with some possible phone numbers for Jay. This is still coming from Sparks in Nevada, right? On September 28th, the following day, I received another call from someone who told me that she had more information. She told me that she thought that Erica was with Jay and a roommate of Jay's whom she named as Michelle. She told me that they were possibly living at this apartment complex. And at approximately 1100 hours, I went to Home Suites Apartments and met with management and gave them the name of Michelle. Now, they're saying Michelle, but I think it was Michelle and Jay. I was told that neither name sounded familiar to them and stated that they were only familiar with one black family living in the complex and that they were much older. I then went to the Waterford Apartments. I also met with management there and gave them the names and descriptions. They stated to me that the only young black male living there was in apartment 109, but stated that his name was Hassan. I then asked that they call me in the event they observed a female matching the description of the runaway. At approximately 13:30 hours, I received a phone call from the managers at the Waterford Apartments. She told me that the runaway I had described had just been in the office to use the bathroom and left walking to apartment 109. As I was leaving Sparks PD, I asked that Detective Lappins come with me in an attempt to locate Erica. Upon arriving at the manager's office, I showed both employees in the office a photograph of the runaway. Both told me that they were positive that that was the person who had been in the office and used the bathroom. She had walked back to apartment 109. At that point, Detective Lappins told me that he had recent contact with Hassan at that apartment and stated that he had arrested him and also located a runaway in that apartment before. Myself and Lappins walked to the apartment where I could hear music coming from inside. We began knocking at the front door where the music was turned off, but nobody would answer. We then contacted Sergeant Cardella and told him that they were there and that information from the blank was that she was in fear from the mother probably, she was in fear for her daughter's safety. Sergeant Cardella then sent a marked patrol officer to assist us. Prior to his arrival, we asked that the patrol officer obtain a key from the front office. As the patrol officers arrived, we attempted to gain entry through the front door using the key. Detective Lopping stated that persons on the other side were holding the lock, not allowing the deadbolt to unlock. We continued to knock at the front door, and while doing so, Officer Rodriguez told me that he had observed a black male look out the rear window. As we continued to knock at the door, a female arrived who identified herself as Michelle. Michelle stated to us that she is the one who resides there at that apartment. We then asked her to call inside the apartment, which she did, and a short time later, a black male opened the front door. Upon doing so, he was asked to exit the apartment and was identified as Hassan. Another black male exited and identified himself as Darrell Brooks, a.k.a. Jay. We then asked if anyone was in the apartment, and at that point, Erica, as the runaway, also exited. The apartment was then secured for other occupants, where the three were the only ones there. At that point, Hassan was placed under arrest and transported out to another jail, where he was booked for contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and Brooks and Erica were both transported to the Sparks Police Department. I also placed a phone call to Erica's mother and told her that we had located her. She was told that they all had been transported to SPD, where she told me that she would come there to take custody of Erica. At Sparks Police Department, Detective Lappins conducted an interview with Erica. I then interviewed Darrell Brooks. During the interview, Brooks told me that he has known Hassan for a few months, and he had met him through just hanging around. He told me that he has known Erica since March of this year and had met her through mutual acquaintances who he refused to identify. He admitted to being in a dating relationship with Erica, which started during this past summer. He told me that Erica had told him that she was 18 years old. Brooks admitted to have been involved in a sexual relationship with her, admitting to have had sexual intercourse with her approximately 5 times from June to August of this year. Brooks stated that he had used condoms each time. Okay, so he's just lied because she said they didn't use condoms. I then asked him if he thought the child Erica was pregnant with was his, and he said that it was a possibility. When asked about him using condoms, he replied that they do break. Such a piece of work. I then asked him if he had sex with her this date, and he told me that he arrived back at the apartment at approximately 9 and that Erica was there and that they did not have any sex. I then confronted that specific day. I then confronted Brooks that Erica's mother had told him sometime in March that she was only 15 years old, and he told me that he never talked to her on the phone. Brooks stated to me that he had never learned that Erica was 15 until he found out she was pregnant. I asked him again if the child was his, and he then told me that she had been, oh my goodness. He is a piece of crap. A total piece of crap. Brooks tells them that she had been sexually assaulted at a party and that she could have been impregnated then. I then asked Brooks if he would consent to providing me with a DNA sample, where he refused. Upon completion of the interview, Brooks was transported to the jail and booked on the above charges.
On March 16th of 2007, he pled guilty to statutory sexual seduction, a felony. The court ordered a suspended sentence for 36 months probation. He was also ordered to register on the Nevada Sex Offender Registry. He is currently noted to be non-compliant with that registration requirement.
Now, this is the state of Nevada, County of Waukesha, and it says that Darrell Edward Brooks Jr., having previously been convicted of the crime of statutory, this is his violation for the seduction of a minor, a felony, and having been previously on probation, it is hereby ordered that the probation is revoked and he shall serve the term to which he was originally sentenced. It is further ordered that the defendant shall be given credit for 131 days time served commencing at the beginning of his term. This was dated July the 13th of 2007. The defendant having entered a plea of guilty and no sufficient cause being shown by defendant as to why judgment should not be pronounced against him, the court rendered judgment as follows: that Darrell Edward Brooks Jr. is guilty of the crime of statutory, the S word, seduction, a violation, a felony, as charged in the information, and that he be punished by imprisonment in the Nevada State Prison for the minimum term of 12 months to a maximum term of 36 months. The prison sentence is suspended and the defendant is placed on probation. Isn't that crazy? For an indeterminate period of time not to exceed 36 months. The defendant is further ordered to pay $25 administration assessment fee and $150 DNA testing fee, a $950 psychosexual evaluation fee, restitution in the amount of $2,362.93 to be paid in minimum monthly installments, I would think. And I guarantee you that if he did pay any of that money, which we're not saying he did because we know how he is, it didn't come from his pocket. It came from somebody else's. And when I said that, I'm thinking him or his mother or Erica. So then he's supposed to reimburse the county of Waukesha for $500 for legal representation. And he was given credit for his 36 days time served. As a condition of probation, the defendant shall remain in custody in the Waukesha Detention Facility until directly transported into the Salvation Army program or an alternative inpatient treatment program upon bed availability. Wait, what does that mean now? Hang on. As a condition of probation, the defendant shall remain in custody in the Waukesha County Detention Facility until directly transported by IAP into the Salvation Army program or an alternative inpatient treatment program upon bed availability. Dated January 3rd of 2007. So they're saying, okay, he's homeless, so we're going to, I'm confused. Is that one of those things where they say where he has to live in a probation house or something like that? I forget what they call that. Okay, this is a different incident. This is kind of interesting because this happened while he was in jail. And he probably stole this from somebody. I don't know. But they could have done some kind of trade for it too, though. So this is February of 2007. I was called by Officer Shannon, I guess, who works in classification and was advised to search inmate Brooks for a phone card that was not his. I had placed him in a holding cell near the laundry area and searched his assigned bunk. I found a calling card that had the name of an inmate Palmer on it. Per classification, inmate Brooks was sent to House 6 on ADSAG pending classification review. I spoke to inmate Palmer, at which time he told me that he did not give his phone card to anyone. I escorted inmate Brooks to the infirmary for an evaluation from the nursing staff who cleared him to be placed in House 6. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I just got distracted and I had to step away, and now I'm back. So let's go over this report. This is connected to the last one we just discussed. February 2nd of 2007, they received a phone call from somebody, Cecilia Patterson. During our phone conversation, she told me that the suspect, Darrell Brooks, had been sentenced on the original charges on January the 7th of 2007. She stated that the information she was aware of, that part of the sentencing, Brooks was ordered to have no contact with the victim until she turned 18 years of age. She continued to say that she believes that he has been making phone calls to her at home at different times during the day and nighttime hours. Patterson stated that she was afraid of Brooks and what he would do to her and her daughter in the event of he was released. Interesting. So she knew there was abuse there. At that point, she provided me with the phone number for him, and then I checked the jail Evercom phone system, finding that from January 31st of 2007 to February 2nd of 2007, phone calls were made to her home from House 14. I also noted that the calls were made from a calling card. I then made contact with the jail classification section. There I spoke with Shannon and asked that she provide me with the owner's name of that card and also the housing unit that Brooks was in. She then told me that Brooks was being detained in House 14, where the calls were being made from. She also told me that the card was purchased by inmate inmate Palmer, and that this inmate had bought 2 separate phone cards. At approximately 1300 hours, I met with Palmer at the Waukesha County Jail. I explained to him the reason for my visit. I asked him if he had purchased the phone cards, and he did. I then asked if he knew the victim in this case, or had made any calls to the number that given to me by Patterson. Palmer stated that he did not know what I was talking about, telling me that the only calls he had made while being in custody was to his father and his girlfriend. I then explained to him that the calls were made with the use of one of his calling cards. Palmer then told me that one of his cards had been lost or stolen. I asked if he had reported this to the deputies of the jail, where he told me that jail is a new experience for him and he's very afraid about being in jail and was afraid to tell. I then asked if he knew Darrell, and he stated that he did not. I then obtained a booking photo of Brooks and showed Palmer, who then told me that Brooks was a food server and had served his food to him, and then thought Brooks had stolen his card while serving his food to him. I then made contact with Shannon again and explained what had happened to her. She in turn made contact with deputies in House 14. Brooks was then removed from his cell and placed into a separate room. Brooks' cell was then searched. During that search, deputies located the calling cards which belonged to Palmer. Contact was then made by the DDA, Rebecca Druckman, and Nevada Parole and Probation Officer Stephanie Webb, who were both advised. Now, here we have on October 4th of 2006, January 2007, November 2006, July of 2007. This is the charge for Erica. And he pleaded in November for it in 2006. They charged him in October for it. And then in 2007, it says probation, reinstatement with extension of time, hearing probation violation. And then July, probation was revoked for a probation violation. He remains in custody until he can find another place to live. Really? To serve an additional 90 days in jail to think about his behavior. And then this is kind of going over what we just went over. All right, let's see. On February 27th of 2007, at approximately 7:55 hours, I received a call from Cecilia Patterson, who told me that Darrell Brooks had again been released from jail and had been in contact with, we know this is Erica. She told me that a friend named Kenya Butler had seen Brooks pick up Erica at the Spark Library. Not the library. Not the library. We're not talking about berries. Library. Cecilia told me that Brooks still has no contact order as part of his probation. I told her that we would attempt to locate Brooks. I then placed a call to Detective Sean Meeks, and he explained to him this case and asked that he help me with it. I told him that according to somebody, which we think's Erica, has been leaving school and meeting with Brooks. I then made contact with Stephanie Webb at Nevada Parole and Probation, who supervises Brooks. I explained to her the information that I had and told her that we were going to surveil Erica if she had left school. She then told me that in the event Brooks has contact with Erica, he was to be booked into the Washoe County Jail on a probation violation. We agreed to meet in the area of Sparks High School, as Erica was going to be dropped off there at approximately 900 hours. At approximately 9:05 hours, I arrived at the high school and observed to be standing at 15th and G Street. I then began to watch her, and she walked south on 15th and East Street, and east to 14th, then south to Ave of the Oaks. She then walked east and stopped at the City Fair transfer station. At this time, Detective Granier and Tracy arrived to assist along with Detective Meeks. We followed the bus she boarded to the city station at Lake and 4th Street in Reno. We then began watching Erica. Detective Meeks advised that she had made contact with Brooks. I then on foot began walking from the south end of City Station towards the north end. While doing so, I observed Brooks and Erica walking north. Both were contacted by myself and Meeks and separated. Brooks was taken into custody. I then approached Erica and told her that the two of them were to have no contact, where she replied that they had met to take care of something things, as she is approximately 7 months pregnant. I again told her that contact between the two of them is forbidden. Detective Granier then arrived, and I asked that he return Erica to Sparks High School, where she was supposed to be. I then returned to Brooks, where he told me that he just met with her to pick up some clothing. I told him that Judge Perry told him that there was to be no contact with Erica when he appeared on February of 2007, on the last time he violated his probation, and the judge allowed him to go free. I then asked Meeks if he would transport Brooks to the jail. It was dated November the 23rd of 2006. I'm going to have to blur it out because it's got our address on here. She states that in regards to Darrell Brooks' assault on Erica Patterson on the night of November 22nd of 2006, I was not present, but after seeing the condition of Erica, I would like to see this guy prosecuted to the fullest extent possible. She had no shoes on, her hair was a mess, and her lip was busted. Since her involvement with he has completely disrupted my entire family. That's got to be Brooks. He impregnated Erica when she was 15 years old. He has been verbally abusive, and even after my plea with him to leave her alone, he continues to keep contact. And and control of her. My frustration with this guy is such a high level. I would like to see him put, I don't know what that word is because it's almost halfway redacted, before he severely hurts someone. Yeah. He seems to be afraid of him Erica seems to be afraid of him to the part that he is controlling her very thought. Oh, awful. Okay, so this is November 22nd. It says supplemental report to the other detective. On November 22nd, Darrell Brooks, who is a suspect in this case, was arrested for domestic battery on Erica Patterson, who is the victim in this case. Darrell was additionally charged with 2 counts of obstructing after he ran from officers. Darrell said that he is currently out on his own recognizance, release resulting from his case. However, denied any contact at all with Erica and denied that the domestic battery had occurred. Darrell said that he had entered a guilty plea in reference to the charges in this case and is out on his own recognizance release pending sentencing. Erica told me that she did not believe that there was any type of no contact orders and did not believe that any of the conditions of Darrell's own recognizance release was to stay away from her. However, she was not certain. Due to the time of day that this occurred, I was unable to contact the court. I will contact Justice Court on the next court day to determine if he is in violation of any other orders as a result of this case. I will supplement this case further if he is. I would request that the supplemental report be forwarded to the Justice Court as well as the District Attorney's Office prosecuting this incident. Okay, now this is October the 4th of 2006, so this is before that last one. At 11 a.m., I met with Erica Patterson at Sparks High School. I interviewed her in reference to the statutory, as the seduction case. She stated that they have not left Waukesha County since they were together, and all of their unions occurred within this county, and that she was currently residing with, I'm going to say that's probably Cecilia Patterson, and attending Sparks High School. I provided her with my business card and told her to call me with any updates. That was 11 a.m. Now, at approximately 11:30 a.m., I went to the Bellevue apartments where he was supposed to be living, right? And I spoke to the manager of the apartments, Pat. Pat told me that she knew Darrell Brooks and had evicted him in June of 2006. She stated that he was staying in apartment number 28 with another guy by the name of Jeremy. After speaking with Pat, I went to apartment number 28 and made contact with Jeremy and his mother. Jeremy confirmed that Darrell lived with them for approximately 4 months and was asked to leave in June of 2006. Jeremy said that he met Darrell at the Nugget as they were both employed at that location. Jeremy told me that he is a busboy in the oyster bar of the restaurant and Darrell was a laundry worker. I asked Jeremy if he had ever seen Erica before, and he said that he had seen her on one occasion. I asked Jeremy if he knew how old Erica was. Jeremy stated that Darrell had told him that she was 18. I asked Jeremy if he knew how old Darrell was, and Jeremy said that he had been told by Darrell that he was 21 years of age. Jeremy stated that in May of 2006, he heard from Darrell that she was pregnant with his child. No further details at this time. I thought that was interesting. Everywhere he goes, he just creates disaster and havoc, and they try to get him out of there. He's a cancer to society, right? Sorry if that was loud. I got to pause to go get more coffee. Okay, I'm back. I had to take a break, you guys, from reading all this. It was driving me nuts. And I wasn't reading. I kept stumbling my words, so hang on. It's Thursday morning. I have my coffee. And we are going to go back to this now. On 11/22 of 2006, we're on the part where basically Erica and Brooks have been spotted fighting out in public, okay? And this guy from across the street notices something's going on, and he noticed that Brooks is being rough with her. And so he calls up in the police. Multiple officers came out, and when they did, they were like chasing Brooks. They ended up catching him, but they chased him a good ways. He actually tried to, let me read this part to you guys. And because there's multiple officers involved, there's like so many reports here that I just think we're kind of reading the same thing over and over again. So that's why I'm kind of skipping through some of it. Let's see. So the officer located Brooks coming over a fence into an alleyway between D Street and Prater Way, and he fled on foot. And the Officer Lake he fled on foot from Officer Lake, and then Officer Lake pursued him. They approached the intersection of Rock Boulevard and D Street. I observed Officer Lake catch up and grab a hold of him, who was still running from him on the northbound lane. Brooks appeared to be providing some minor resistance to Officer Lake's attempt to take him to the ground. So Officer Lake did take Brooks to the ground because he's a little wormy thing and he can't fight a man. And as I approached, Brooks was refusing to bring his hands behind his back. I did take control of his left hand and I placed it in handcuffs. Officer Lake took control of his right hand and it was also placed in handcuffs, and he was arrested. Brooks said that he ran because a girl told him that officers were approaching. Brooks refused to identify who the girl was. He denied having any type of fight or problem with any of his female friends, and says he's never had, with any other female. And he said that he had mental problems, which is part of the reason that he also ran. Brooks was asked if he needed medical assistance, and of course he said, "Yeah, I need to request the paramedics respond." And Brooks Fire Department personnel were first to arrive and examine him. Waste. After they spoke with him further, he declined any further medical treatment, indicated he just wanted to be taken to the county detention facility. So basically, they probably came out and looked at him, and they were like, "Dude, you're fine. You're fine." He did say that his left leg was hurting, along with his mouth and right shoulder. So apparently, this is something he's just been doing for a long time. Every time he gets arrested, he probably feels like he can get something out of it down the road. I would think that all felons probably you try to use this at some point in time. I mean, if you're going to be a convicted felon, might as well lie about everything, right? Okay. So the Sparks Fire Department personnel said that they saw no visible injuries on Brooks, and it was again confirmed with him that he did not want to be taken to the hospital. They took photos of the scene as well as Brooks, and there was some belongings that were found and at the area where he had dropped him when he started running. They all belonged. Some of it came back to Brooks, some of it came back to Erica. They went looking for Erica when all this happened, but they couldn't find her. Okay. Now Brooks was positively identified by the witness as being the originally reporting the violent domestic disturbance. And we're going to look at some of his stuff here in a minute. Okay. That's just, I don't know why I copied that. That didn't tell us anything. Okay. This is a statement from Erica. Why do I know this? Because listen to what it says and you'll know that I'm right here. The type of original report was domestic battery, right? And it says, "Me and Daryl have been together for 8 months and I am 3 months pregnant by him." Or we were arguing at the Spark City Center, and as we continued down the street, we were going to the movie theater parking lot. I lost my temper and listen to how she blames herself, or she tries to make it like it was all her. "I lost my temper and threw my shoe at him and pushed him, and he hit me in the mouth. Not intended to, but he did it by mistake." They all say the same thing, don't they? These abused women. Then we argued some more and then talked and calmed down, and we were going to the park, but the cops came and he ran. At this point, they've only been together that short period of time, and he's already got her groomed as to what to say to the police. What does that tell y'all? Now, a really quick rundown on this one. This lieutenant said that there was a report of a black male had been beating on a black female in the area and had dragged her into the alley north of Victoria and Sparks. He began to check the area. He observed a black male and black female matching the description that had been broadcast, and they were walking towards this intersection. Basically, what happened was when they started walking toward the intersection, one of the cops in the patrol car came up, and when Brooks saw the patrol car, he turned around and started walking the other direction. And that's when the guy put on his lights and went after him, and then that's when Brooks started running. They attempted to locate Patterson after the foot pursuit, but were unable to do so. It should be noted that I recovered several items of property in the area where the foot pursuit first began. Among those items were a backpack, which Brooks later claimed was his, a red jacket that he was wearing at the time that the foot pursuit started. Wrapped up inside the jacket was a small black backpack-style purse. As I went through the items, I attempted to locate something that would tell me who the owner of the purse was. Inside the purse, I located items of property, including medical cards and such, with Erica's name on them. It was later determined that Brooks had been arrested in a statutory you-know-what seduction case involving Patterson. They then went to her house, rang the doorbell, and she answered the door. The officer says, I immediately recognized her as the one who had been at the intersection with Brooks. I asked her if I could come inside and speak with her, and she stated that I could. Several moments later, I think it's her mom or her grandmother, identified as Maudie Patterson, unlocked the door and allowed us in. I asked Erica if she knew why I was there, and she stated that she did not know. I told her that I was there investigating a domestic battery between she and Brooks. She initially stated that she and Brooks had not been together in the evening. She did, however, state that much earlier in the day, at approximately 4 p.m., she and Brooks had been together. She initially told me that she and Brooks had gone to the Sparks library where they had checked out several items. I believe this to be true because when I went through the purse, there were 2 videotapes inside of it. One was the I Love Lucy. I observed she had a swollen lower lip, which appeared to have a fresh injury approximately in the middle of it. She told me that she had received that injury in a fight with a female identified as Tamika, and I asked her to again tell me the story of what happened. She told me that she left the house and was taken to a bus stop. There she met up with Brooks and an argument ensued. She stated that the couple had an argument and parted ways, and that it was at the bus stop where the fight with Tamika ensued. I pointed out to her that she had already told me that the fight was at the library and not at the bus stop. I told her that I had recovered her purse and asked her where it had gotten lost. She stated that Brooks dropped it when he ran and took off his jacket, which she could only know if she had been there and present when the foot pursuit started. I explained to her that I was aware that she had a relationship with Brooks, and she told me that she was pregnant with his child. She told me that they had been dating approximately 8 months, and I explained to her that I needed to know the truth about what happened and that I did not believe parts of the story that she was telling me. She then stated that she had met Brooks at the bus stop, and she told me that Brooks treated her like a dog. When I asked her to explain what she meant by that, she stated that she was frequently called names by Brooks. She stated that during the length of their relationship, which began 8 months ago, Brooks frequently gets angry and has pushed her on numerous occasions. She stated that evening Brooks had called her several different names, and she took off her shoe and threw it at him. Brooks then struck her in the lower lip with a backhanded blow, and according to her, his hand was open at the time and was not clenched in a fist. She stated that the pattern of violence with Brooks had been escalating during the course of their relationship. It initially started as name-calling, it escalated into pushing, and thus far as accumulated with the events of this evening. She expressed on at least 2 occasions that she was concerned that he would find out that she did a written police statement. I explained to her that she needed to be truthful. She stated that she believed that Brooks needed anger management counseling because both she and him had a temper. And she stated that she is already on anger management counseling in regards to a fight between she and her mother. One thing that was noted here that I saw in another report was like, maybe it was this one we were reading earlier. It seemed like her acting out and everything didn't start until she started hanging out with Brooks. Officer Adkins provided me with a domestic violence information sheet, which contained information regarding the case number and how to obtain a restraining order. I reviewed the sheet with her and I gave it to her. I also asked her mother if she had any questions, as did Officer Adkins, and neither party had any questions for us. Now, this is just another officer that's given his point of view. And I'm going to have to blur this because the witness says here that the witness told Officer Gamwell that he was on the other side of the street when he observed Brooks grab a hold of Erica and he appeared to be dragging her. She appeared to the witness to be very upset and was yelling, at which time he called the police. The witness positively identified Brooks as the one that he saw battering Erica, and the officers checked the area extensively for her. However, they were unable to locate her. Brooks denied having an argument or a fight with anyone. He said, "That girl told me to run." And however, Brooks denied knowing this girl. Due to being unable to locate Erica at the time and not knowing the relationship between the two, Brooks was then transported to a detention facility and booked for 2 counts of obstructing. Later on, when they found Erica, Sergeant Corral told me that she initially denied anything that had happened between her and Brooks and said another female friend had caused a visible injury, which appeared to be a laceration on her lower bottom lip, on her bottom middle portion of her lip. Finally, she admitted that Brooks had struck her on the face. And he says, "I also met with her and she told me that she had been in a dating relationship with him. A review of records indicated that Brooks was charged with statutory you-know-what seduction. She told me that both her and Brooks have bad tempers. When they got into an argument, Brooks began calling her names and provoking her, and then she removed her shoe and threw it towards him. He then struck her in the face open-handed, said that a pushing match ensued, and she told Brooks that she was going to call the police. She told me that Brooks said that he was sorry and that he had not purposely hit her and asked her not to call the police. And he told her that he loved her." She said that they were walking past the Winter's Corner when the witness observed them, and they were still arguing. The witness did ask her if she was okay, and at that point, Brooks grabbed a hold of her and started walking away with her while telling the witness that everything was fine, and he said that Erica said that she was not forcibly dragged by Brooks. It was more like he was just trying to keep the police from being called. So she just keeps on, trying to help him get out of trouble. Erica said that as Brooks saw the officers in the area that were walking toward Deer Park, he told her he was going to run, and she told him not to run, but he took off and officers pursued him. Erica later got a ride back to her residence. Erica said that physical violence in her and Brooks's relationship has occurred on several occasions. Most of the time it's pushing matches and a lot of yelling. She was offered medical attention, most of the injury onto her lip, as well as being pregnant, but she declined it. So did her mom. Her mom declined it too. Well, it says her mother was in agreement with that. Okay. Due to the witness's observations, as well as him positively identifying Brooks as the one that committed the battery against Erica, Brooks' inconsistent statement and denial that anything had occurred, his fleeing from police, the visible injuries to Erica, the difference in physical stature between Brooks and Erica's statement, which were consistent with the witnesses, I determined that Brooks was the primary physical aggressor in the domestic battery. He was additionally booked for domestic battery in reference to this case. It said here that he had no previous convictions on a 111 criminal history for domestic battery, which I find hard to believe, but maybe just in their police department he didn't have any.
He has no contact with the criminal justice system in Waukesha County or the district attorney's office. He does have a outstanding paternity case that's been pending since 2003, in which he was adjudicated as the father of a juvenile, and there's been returned court appearances over the years based on failure to pay child support. The court should know that a warrant or capias was issued for Mr. Brooks in this paternity case on at least 8 occasions. He has been sentenced to jail on several prior occasions for failing to pay that child support. And on one occasion, he had his Huber privileges revoked related to one of those jail sentences. That was back in 2009. Most recently, there was a warrant issued for his arrest in that non-support civil case on August 2 of 2021. Judge Maxwell signed an order for him to serve a 120-day jail sentence. Mr. Brooks did make a court appearance in that matter on November 16th of 2021, so just last week, 1 week ago. And he was released at that time because, again, he had explained to the court, provided an explanation that the reason he had not made his child support payments is because he was serving that jail sentence in Georgia. So the court released him that day and ordered him back for a court appearance in the paternity case for December. 2009 Manitowoc County conviction for obstructing an officer, sentence of 2 days jail, time served. 2010 conviction from Wood County, Wisconsin. He was convicted of the offense of strangulation/suffocation with other charges of battery and criminal damage to property dismissed and read in. The court ordered a withheld sentence for 3 years probation. That probation was revoked, and on August 1 of 2011, he was sentenced to 11 months jail.
So we're in Milwaukee. No, this is Nevada. I'm gonna have to blur this, guys, because this person that did the report, her information's on here. But basically, she's just stating that Brooks is not now, nor has he ever been a resident of Skyline Mobile Home Park. Lot number 22 is a vacant lot. This is the property manager of the mobile home park that's stating this, right? This is going back to him not reporting his status because, you know, he's on the offender registry, so he's supposed to report every time he moves. And he had given a false address as this mobile home park in Reno, Nevada. And it says that annual verification paperwork on January 1st of 2009 was mailed to that address. The paperwork was not returned initially, but the subject was placed into a failure status on March 31st of 2009. Again, on January 1st of 2010, the subject was mailed another annual verification paperwork to the same address at the mobile home park in Reno, Nevada. and the paperwork was returned by the United States Postal Service, not deliverable as addressed. The subject was already in a failure status, and that was the most current information they had at the Nevada Department of Public Safety. I don't know about this registrant information involved in substance abuse treatment in the past. This has to be Darrell's. It says from August of 07 to September. What does that look like to y'all? 08. Now this jumps back to April 25th of 2007, and a social worker had interviewed Erica, who was 8 months pregnant. So Erica stated Brooks was in custody at the jail, and when the social worker checked the system, Brooks came up with a hazard flag that he is in custody. Now they say he's a tier 2, offender in jail for probation violation. The social worker contacted the regional offenders unit, I guess, and reported it. Then there's a statement here that says Brooks is currently on probation, and as a condition, he is forbidden to have contact with Erica. At 10:55 a.m. on February 27th of 2007, Brooks was found with Patterson in public. He was arrested at the direction of Officer Webb. Brooks advised me that Brooks had recently been convicted. Later, I received a call from Brooks' supervising officer, Stephanie Webb, and she asked that Brooks be arrested for probation violation in the event that he made contact with Erica. Again, we're on February 27th, 2007, 9:10 hours. Detective Moratti and I met with Sparks Police Department detectives in the area of something and worked surveillance to determine if Erica was meeting Brooks. We followed her to the City Fair bus station located at 10th and C Street. She rode the city station bus to Reno. She waited at the station and later inside the north building for a short time. We observed Brooks arrive at the bus station and knock on the glass door near her from outside. She recognized him and exited the building. While walking together, detectives made contact with Brooks and her. They confirmed Brooks' identity, and then he was taken into custody. They were both separated, and Brooks was informed of the reason of his arrest. He contested the basis of his arrest and stated that he had met with Erica as he needed to get some clothes from her. The elements of no contact were explained to him, and I escorted him to my police vehicle. Brooks then changed his story and tried to explain that he had no idea that she was at the bus station and that he was on his way to get a drug test. He claimed he had met her by coincidence. All right, so this is just a complaint, okay? And this was in Wisconsin Rapids. Waukesha Police Department requested that we check this address for an individual by the name of Darrell Brooks in reference to a domestic disturbance which occurred in their jurisdiction. Sergeant Snyder and I did go to this address, and we did locate this individual there. We did take him into custody and did transport him to the Wood County Jail. Officer Jason Dean from the Waukesha Police Department will be taking care of all the charges from his department. February 20th, 2010. I was working the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift at the City of Waukesha Police Department. I was dressed in full police uniform and was operating a fully marked police squad. During the shift change, an officer on the same date, he provided me with the information of an incident and complaint, which he stated that he handled on today's date. He explained to me that around the time of 11 a.m., he was dispatched to go to Market Street in Waukesha to speak with a female subject by the name of, it's redacted. The other officer stated that this person reported to him that her main front door to her apartment at this address had been damaged very badly and appeared to be kicked in by a person. The officer also stated that he observed the same and taken photos of the damage as well. The officer also stated that the claimant had indicated that she felt that the suspect in this damage was a roommate that had been staying with her for the last approximate week by the name of Darrell Brooks. The officer also explained that when the witness or the claimant then additionally explained to him that she and Brooks had been involved in a physical altercation the day before, February 19th of 2010. At that same address within her apartment. The officer stated that she had reported to him that she had been in an argument with Brooks and that as a result, she had been shoved to the floor of the apartment and had sustained injuries that the officer had observed on her face, including a bruise near her right eye, along with a small cut or scratch that was under her left eye. He also mentioned that she stated that He also mentioned that she had said that one of her wrists was also injured from her being shoved to the floor by Brooks. And even though it's redacted here, guys, this is a different woman. This is not Erica. The officer then also explained to me that he had tried phone contact with Brooks and had been unsuccessful in these attempts to talk with him. He also stated during the time of process of taking this complaint that he had learned that the defendant's brother, or the claimant's brother, had also located and observed Brooks, I need to redact this, walking out of the bread and butter convenience store within Wisconsin Rapids immediately following the report of this information from the claimant to the officer. He stated that her brother had reported to him that he had followed him to an apartment complex near 28th Street within Wisconsin Rapids. They stated that her brother had, however, did not observe what apartment he went into. So the officer that was on duty at the time stated that he additionally had placed an attempt to locate within the entire county for Darrell Brooks. And as he explained, that after the information and evidence that he had collected on scene, that Brooks should be arrested for the charges of battery and strangulation. He explained to me that if Mr. Brooks was located, he was to be taken into custody and taken to jail for these offenses. I then drove directly to the Wood County Jail to have contact with Brooks for an interview regarding, okay, this is a jump. We're jumping. It's the same incident, but they now have him in custody. Now, hang on just a second. All right, so this is after they have him in custody for this. So they went and had an interview with Brooks regarding his involvement in that incident. They brought Brooks into the audio video recording and they recorded the interview. Just prior to Mr. Brooks being brought to this room, I initiated an audio video recording of his complete interview. Okay. Once the jail staff brought him in, I then read him his Miranda rights and waiver of rights directly in front of him. He signed the form and he signed off on it. Okay. Mr. Brooks continued to want to know why he was at the jail and what he was or was not going to be arrested for and the charges that I would be requesting upon him. He was repeatedly explained that I could not ask him any questions or make mention of anything unless he was willing to sign the form and talk with me, waiving his rights. I eventually simply explained to him some limited background information on the reason as to why he was at the jail, but asked him no questions pertaining to his possible involvement with this incident. Mr. Brooks then chose himself to waive his rights and sign the bottom of this form and his signature and date. I then additionally signed the bottom of the form. I then began asking Mr. Brooks questions pertaining to his possible involvements in this incident. I then explained to him that I believed he was involved in this complaint and the reasons for believing he was involved. Brooks continued to listen to me intently and then made some of the following statements. Brooks admitted to having known this other person and furthermore stated that I got to blur this out too because it's got her full name on there. Brooks admitted to having known this person and further stated that he had been staying with her for the past week, approximately as a friend. Brooks also admitted to the officer that he had become upset at some of the phone calls that she had been receiving on her cellular phone, due to Brooks answering most of these calls and being called rude and disrespectful names over the phone. Brooks further adds that these phone calls had bothered him quite a bit, and at times was angry about them being made to the complainant. He explained to me that he had waited until the next day to confront her about these calls made to her phone. Well, what business was this another woman he was trying to control? Brooks then stated that when he asked her about these phone calls that he had answered, that she basically blew him off and seemed like she didn't care if it bothered him or not. Brooks further acknowledged that she had then complained to him that if he did not like the arrangements for living with her, that he could collect his things and leave. Brooks further acknowledged that both him and her had gotten into a physical altercation with one another involving what Brooks stated was a mutual shoving match. When I explained to Brooks that she had reported that she had been shoved to the ground a couple of times, he stated that he wouldn't been able to come out and admit that he had just shoved her to the ground, but instead again stated that both of them were involved with shoving each other around on the bedroom, around the bedroom. Brooks then explained that to me that the whole argument had started over whether or not both of him could agree on whether or not who owned certain music CDs. Brooks stated that he basically just started grabbing at some of the CDs that he never really looked at the titles or the artist names when he was grabbing at some of them and placed them into his belongings. Brooks then stated that during this process, she told him, "Hang on 1 minute," and that she began to argue whether or not certain ones were hers. Brooks stated that is when she then grabbed a hold of his shirt that he had on and started pulling and shoving him. Brooks stated that he probably had marks to put. Okay. He stated that he probably had marks too, but was not worried about explaining this in further and continued his statement. So he probably said, "Oh, I got marks too." And the cop was like, "Well, let's see your marks." And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about that." Brooks then explained that this person had tripped over her pants, and I then explained to him that this did not happen. Brooks would only explain that she may have not tripped over her pants, but that he had only been involved in a shoving match with her. Brooks also explained to me that the way he perceived this was that he and her were not really in a physical fight, but rather a shoving match with each other. Brooks stated to me that he had never intended to hurt her from this altercation. When Brooks was asked about placing his hands around the base of her neck, he stated that it was just a reaction and that his hands went forward and outward to defend himself. Are you kidding me? Brooks further explained that after this altercation had taken place, that both him and her had then gotten to the bar to be with other family and friends at the Liquid Lounge. Brooks further explained to me that as they had gone to the bar, that there were no marks on her face at that night. Brooks stated that when she grabbed him, that he merely grabbed her back. I then later further asked Brooks about the damage to the front door of the apartment and that I knew how he had gotten a ride into Wisconsin Rapids and who he had gotten this ride with, and I explained numerous times that I wanted him to be honest about kicking in the door to her apartment. Brooks then remained silent for a good period of time and then chose to not answer any further questions. This report should be accompanied with the other officer's report. So here's the other officer's report. This was on February 20th of 2010. I was advised of a burglary that had occurred on Market Street. And they're talking about how the victim's brother had saw where it went. So they contacted the complainant, and she said sometime since 3 a.m. her door was kicked in. She said there was approximately 7 movies taken out of the apartment, along with a duffel bag, which was the suspect's duffel bag. She did not notice anything else that went missing. After getting the initial report from her, I contacted her brother, who said that he had followed the subject and he knew where he was. He was not certain the address of the apartment complex, but stated that it was next to 2811. He said he did not see the suspect anymore and was instructed to call us if he did observe him again. When I arrived, I met with Jamie and she explained what happened. She said that she and the suspect got into an argument and she told him to get his stuff and leave. Jamie said his name was Darrell Brooks, but was not certain of his middle initial. Jamie said she thought his date of birth was blah. Jamie said Darrell also went by the name of Jay and she knew him for approximately 1 week. After meeting with Jamie, I took photographs of the damage done to the door. Jamie and I also checked the rest of the apartment for damage and other items. Jamie's the claimant, y'all, that may have been taken. She did not observe any other damage and did not locate anything that was missing. She was not certain what movies were taken, but thought that there were 7 DVDs. She could remember Fast and Furious, Drift and Running Scared were among them. While I was talking with Jamie about the incident, she advised me that she was assaulted on February the 19th at 2010 at approximately 11:30 a.m. She explained she got into an argument with Brooks, and as a result, she was thrown to the ground. During the process, she struck her head on the floor and received a bruise near her right eye. She also received a small scratch that was under her left eye. The scratch appeared to be superficial, and no injuries were treated at a medical facility. She indicated her wrist was injured while she was thrown to the floor. She went on to explain that after she was thrown to the floor, Brooks grabbed her throat and squeezed. She said this made it extremely difficult to breathe, and he eventually let go and walked out. I asked her if she could describe what caused the confrontation between the two. She stated that the argument started over him answering her phone while she was asleep. And according to her, Brooks answered her phone and another male subject was on the other end. Brooks asked her about other men calling her phone and became upset. Brooks followed her into the bathroom, banging the door, and then knocked her radio off of the sink. She told Brooks that if he did not like the way things were, he could leave. She left the bathroom and went into the bedroom and noticed Brooks had taken several of the CDs and put them into his backpack. She also noticed her purse was missing. She confronted Brooks on these issues and told him she was going to call the police. When she told Darrell she was going to call the police, the physical contact began. While I was talking with her about this, she stated she did not give Brooks permission to physically harm her, nor did she say he could enter her apartment without her permission. She said Brooks and her never lived together, and she had just recently come to the area. She said she had only stayed... And he had just recently come to the area. She said he had only stayed with her a couple of times. And she also stated she was afraid of this type of behavior would continue if Brooks was to be around her again. She said she did not want anything to do with him again. I also took photographs of her injuries she sustained during the confrontation that occurred on that 19th of 2010. After speaking with Jamie, I contacted Wisconsin Rapids PD and requested their assistance in locating the suspect. Officer Zimmerman and I met with Jesse and were not able to locate the suspect. Jesse did not know what apartment the subject had went into, and the person that dropped him off had left prior to our arrival. After contact with Brooks, I had dispatched check local records to see if there was any recent contact with law enforcement. A check of county records indicated that there had been no law enforcement contact in Wood County with him. I entered the information given to me from Jamie into a driver's license check and was able to get Darrell's contact information off of a warrant that returned. According to the response, Darrell's information is as followed. And it's just got his name and address and date of birth on there. Jamie was able to give me 2 phone numbers, which I'm going to blur out. I attempted to contact him via phone and was not able to. The message on the voicemail indicated it was the person speaking went by the name of Jay. I asked Jamie if she knew how tall he was and how much he weighed, and she said she told him he was about 5'8", but she did not think he was quite that tall. He's not. I think he's only like 5'3". She also indicated that approximate weight was like 148 pounds, 145 pounds. And at the time, he may have been 145 pounds, but he's not. Like, when he was arrested in Waukesha, he was down to like 135 pounds. Jamie said that he had dreadlocks and hair that was approximately shoulder length. I gave Jamie a written statement form, which was completed and later returned to me. Based on the information about the physical contact between the two of them, as well as the information on the identity of Mr. Brooks, I had the Wood County Dispatch Center issue an attempt to locate for all of Wood County to take Mr. Brooks into custody for battery and strangulation. Shortly after the ATL was entered, Officer Dean received information about the location of Brooks. They went to that location and arrested him. I will be requesting charges for battery and strangulation with the Wood County District Attorney's Office. I will also be requesting a charge of criminal damage to property for the damage done to the door. So I'm blurring this out because I didn't want to dox this chick, but the offense that's stated here is battery, strangulation and suffocation, and criminal damage to property. It says officer contact the occupants in room 232. Okay, different incident now. 10/3 of 2008, Reno Police Department. Officers checked with the man on report of a wanted suspect out of Colorado Springs. Okay, this is another one. This is another time where Brooks got arrested for being stupid. Okay. So they go to get this guy that they got an arrest warrant on in Colorado Springs, and the management office at the motel tells them that they're in room 232. So the officers contact the occupants of room 232 and order them out using verbal commands. The wanted suspect was identified and arrested. Officers conducted a warrant check on the other suspect, identified as Darrell Brooks, who was also found to have a warrant for his arrest. The warrant was confirmed through Reno PD, and Brooks was arrested on the confirmed warrant and transported to the county jail by the prisoner transport vehicle. Oh my goodness, he's so stupid.
2012, he was convicted at the same time on 2 separate files in Milwaukee County. First file was a charge for possession of marijuana as a repeat offender, sentenced to 180 days in the House of Correction. The second file, he was convicted of misdemeanor bail jumping and misdemeanor possession of THC, also sentenced to 180 days in the House of Correction, concurrent to the other case and concurrent to each other. In May of 2012, there was a conviction for resisting obstructing. He was sentenced to 37 days jail consecutive to the earlier sentence imposed in April of that year. On June 23rd of 2016, he was charged with a sex offender registry violation, first offense. He failed to appear in court, and a warrant remains active for his arrest. So he currently has an outstanding warrant for his arrest in the state of Nevada.
Now, this is just telling you that he's a tier 2 offender. He was arrested in September 28th of 2006 and was convicted on November 1st of 2006. It was discovered that he has been listed as a non-compliant for failing his state of Nevada registry information annual verification record. All right, so this was okay. So this date on this is July 2nd of 2016. All right, here we go. On June 24th of 2016, I was able to confirm that the offender registry case manager with the case manager that Brooks had failed his annual verification and received an email copy of the certification of record, which indicates the following. Darrell Edward Brooks was mailed annual verification paperwork on January 1st of 2009. The paperwork was not returned again on January 1st of 2010. And the paperwork was returned by the post office as undeliverable. Subject was already in failure status. This is the most current information we have. It should be noted that Brooks last registered with the Reno Police Department on September 23rd of 2008. Now, we do know that he eventually was moving from state to state, but I wonder if him moving from state to state had anything to do with that, like he was trying to get away from having to report where he was. It's kind of scary when you think about it. You could have people around you that are supposed to be on this verification thing, on this registry, but they're not because they just moved to a different state and they haven't located them, hunted them down yet. They did a offender sweep on November the 20th of 2012, and they revealed that Brooks provided a false address on his registration. Please tell me that he got in trouble for that. He got some kind of time for that. Please, somebody tell me. Per the information from the sweep, the address they had given him was a vacant lot. The address that he had given them was a vacant lot. All right. I have to blur this one too, y'all, because it's got Michelle's information on here. And even though we don't agree with what she says and what she does, we don't want to get in trouble. So I would not dox her for having bad taste or judgment. So basically Michelle wrote a report here, right? And this was in Sparks, Nevada. And it was done on June the 23rd of 2016. In this statement, she says that Brooks had been staying with me since February of 2016. There was an incident with another resident. It's got to be another resident in my complex to do with a gun and having it being pulled on Brooks. And then her last sentence is, he is a good guy. Come on, Michelle. She sounds like she's been abused too. She's going to. So on June 23rd of 2016, Darrell Brooks was involved in a verbal altercation at an apartment complex in Sparks, Nevada. All the subjects involved were checked for wants and warrants. Sparks Police Department dispatch advised Brooks was on the you-know-what offender list and had failed his annual verification. He admitted that he resided there since February or March of 2016 with a female friend and had not registered as a you-know-what offender since he had originally registered when he had gotten out of prison. Brooks's female friend and the renter there provided a mailing address for Brooks, which was photographed and provided in a written statement, which confirms Brooks had resided there since February of 2016. Now they're just going over how and why he was not compliant with the registry list. Okay, so what Brooks said about not registering was, he goes, Brooks stated that he did not know that he had to register every time he moved as a you-know-what offender and had no idea that he would receive annual verification from the state of Nevada. Really? Really? Brooks admitted that he had resided at that apartment complex since February or March and thought that he had originally registered out of prison, that he did not need to continue registering. He's so full of crap. He's a dumb person. We know he's dumb, but still he knows that. It says that Detective Kimball is going to request certified copies of convictions and stipulations on Brooks. Okay, so here's the details of what happened in June of 23rd, 2016. At approximately 9:55 hours, I was dispatched to this apartment on a report of a male subject with a gun leaving the apartment after making some threats. I arrived at the apartment within approximately 3 minutes to locate the alleged suspect, who was unarmed. Information was shown by the alleged suspect that Brooks was actually the antagonizer and had been at the individual's apartment making threats against him. As I was speaking with the subject, two black male adults exited apartment 196 and attempted to walk past my patrol unit, at which time the officers who arrived on scene started speaking with them and determined that they were in fact the ones making allegations against the individual. So Brooks called the cops on this guy. This is hilarious. So Officer James checked for wants and warrants, and upon doing so, they found that Brooks was a you-know-what offender and failed to do his annual verification. So when Officer James, who arrived on scene as a cover officer, contacted the regional you-know-what offender unit and found all that out, they confirmed all that. And they found out he wasn't in compliance. With this information, Detective Jason Kimball advised that Brooks was not in compliance and was subject to arrest for failing his annual verification. He had been admitted to Officer Danny James and myself. Okay, so Brooks had admitted to them that he currently resided there at that apartment 196 with his friend Michelle. And Brooks also stated that he was currently employed and was unaware that he needed to register. Whatever. I spoke with Michelle, who informed me that she considers Brooks her god brother, and she has known him for more than 10 years. Michelle stated that Brooks has resided with her in her apartment since January, February, and has been there ever since. I asked Michelle if she had any other kind of mail that she might have been addressed that has address on it. She did come up with something that has address on it. I photographed the envelope and returned it to Allsworth to return to her apartment, and returned it to Allsworth to return it to her apartment. and also requested Michelle fill out a written statement in regards to how long Brooks has resided with her. After completing this investigation, I placed Brooks under arrest and later transported him to the Waukesha County Jail, where he was booked on the 2 charges of, offender failing to an annual verification report and offender failing to register. On the way to the county jail, Brooks stated several times that if he would have known he had to register every time he relocates, he would have done so, and was unaware of the stipulations of being a registered offender. I transported Brooks to the Waukesha County Jail without incident, where he was booked at the list of charges. So I think that's hilarious because Brooks is the one that called the cops, and then he gets arrested. That's karma. That's just the Reno stuff on it. I don't see. Let's see. No, yeah, this is the same thing. All right. Suspicious circumstances. July 22nd of 2016. On July 22nd of 2016, the victim, Michelle, this is the same Michelle we're talking about, guys, contact the Reno Police Department to report a suspicious circumstance. Michelle related the following. On July 19th of 2016, Michelle was admitted to the Renown Medical Center ICU. Hospital staff informed Michelle that suspect Brooks contacted hospital staff and told them that he was Michelle's boyfriend. And according to Michelle, hospital staff released Michelle's house key to Brooks while Michelle was intubated. Michelle initially said that she and Brooks had been friends for 10 years and nothing more. Michelle later stated that Darrell had been living with her and they had a recent falling out. And then Michelle refused to provide any further information. So what I'm finding in reading on some of these reports is that he's jumping around from person to person, people to, home to home, and he pisses everybody off everywhere he goes and they kick him out. It says on day, date, and time, the above listed defendant who was identified was involved in property damage accident. Oh, this is something different. Okay, this is a different report. This is in Milwaukee, too. This is the Milwaukee Police Department. And this was on March 29th of 2019. The above listed defendant who was identified in a photo was involved in a property damage only accident at the intersection of Westport Sunlight Way and North 27th Street. The investigation revealed that the defendant failed to yield the right-of-way from a stop sign located at the northeast corner of the mentioned intersection, which resulted in the accident. The defendant was traveling westbound. Prior to the violation that led to the accident, the defendant stated that there was another vehicle in the way as he entered the intersection and he could not see the oncoming vehicle that he was involved with in the accident. With a DOT check revealed a suspended Wisconsin driver's license status at the time of the accident, and the defendant did not have motor vehicle insurance. He was cited for the violations. The violations were observed by, and they're just listing the other person that he hit. On Sunday, okay, here's a new one. Just keeps on going. It's like the gift that keeps on giving, y'all. I don't know about you guys, but I am a huge fan of the movie Christmas Vacation. And I love Cousin Eddie. And I just keep thinking, every time I say something that he said, it just brings me back to that movie and I laugh to myself. So basically what I'm saying is I'm cracking myself up. But if y'all know what I'm talking about, it's the gift that keeps on giving, Clark, all year round. All right. On Sunday, December 2nd, 2018, at 6:37 p.m., I was dispatched, again, back to Dawn Wood's house for a recovery of a prior authority vehicle. Upon arrival, I spoke with the owner, Donnell Woods, who stated that she does have her vehicle back, and she took the vehicle to a family member's residence so her son would not find it. The vehicle should be cleared as it has been recovered. So that was 12 December 2nd, 2018, and I wanted to make note of that, you guys, that she felt like she had to hide her car from him.
He's currently pending on 2 charges in Milwaukee County. 2020 CF 2550, he's charged with 2 counts, second-degree recklessly endangering safety while armed, and 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm. The date of that offense, or excuse me, all 3 offenses, is July 24th, 2020. It's believed he was arrested shortly after that incident and remained in custody in the Milwaukee County Jail until released on bail there for reasons of a speedy trial violation on March 3 of 2021. Bail at that time was lowered from $7,500 cash bail to $500 cash bail. In that case, Your Honor, it is alleged that he got into a fight with his nephew. The defendant fired 1 round from a handgun toward the vehicle that his nephew was in. The vehicle was occupied by another person, and that accounts for the 2 charges of reckless endangering safety. The next day, he was taken into custody, and the residence where he was located, he was found to have a loaded 9mm handgun just a few feet away from him. The handgun was previously reported stolen. Again, he was a convicted felon on that date, so that accounts for the 3rd charge.
Another incident, you guys. On Friday, July 24th of 2020 at 1:25 p.m., the Shot Spotter gun shot detection system recorded 1 round fired in front of 4014 North. Okay, so the incident that happened with Darrell and his nephew. This is the statement from the friend of her nephew that was there, of Brooks's nephew. This was the friend that was with Brooks's nephew, Anaji, when all of this happened. She stated that Anaji's uncle, Brooks, kept arguing with him and provoking him into a fight. She stated that Anaji and Brooks did have a consensual and mutual fight in the backyard at this location. When the fight had concluded, Anaji and Manny entered her vehicle to leave. She stated that she was seated in the driver's seat and Anaji was seated in the passenger seat. She stated that Brooks then exited the front door of the residence and began looking around nervously as though he was checking to see if anyone was outside. She stated that Brooks was holding a gun in his hand down next to his body while looking up and down the block nervously. She stated that Brooks then suddenly raised the gun and while holding the gun sideways in his hand, fired 1 shot towards them while they were seated in the vehicle. She stated she quickly put her vehicle in drive and fled the area to avoid any further confrontation. She said she has known Brooks for the duration of her friendship with Anaji and therefore is familiar with him. She stated she did state that she wished to be a victim in this incident and was willing to prosecute. She has never lived with Brooks or been in an intimate relationship with him. She describes him as a black male, approximately 5'8". Y'all, something I saw, he was shorter than that. I got to go back and look because I have a feeling he's shorter than that. Anaji stated that the dispute with Darrell began yesterday when he discovered that Darrell had what he believed was his old cell phone. Anaji stated that they had been going back and forth since yesterday and were involved in a physical altercation today, but he was not injured from the altercation. Anaji mentioned that after the altercation, he got into the car with his friend, and as they were pulling away from the house, Brooks fired 1 gunshot at the car from the front yard of the residence. Anaji stated that he did not give consent for Brooks to shoot at him and wished to prosecute for the incident. Anaji stated that he feared for his life and believes that Brooks might try to kill him. Again, guys, this is the same case that they just went to court for, and Anaji and Darrell's mother and this other chick, none of them showed up in court. So they got the charges marked down. We checked the area for Brooks and the Ford Escape, but were unable to locate him, and a temporary felony warrant was entered. So he took off they were unable to locate any casings in the yard or any bullet strikes to the victim's vehicle. There is a Ring doorbell at the residence, but the Wi-Fi at the house was turned off prior to the incident and nothing was recorded. So Anaji filled this out, and I may have already gone over this in the other video. It says, has he or ever used a weapon against you or threatened you with a weapon? Yes. Do you think he might try to kill you? Yes. Has he or ever tried to choke you? Yes. Have you ever left him, been separated, lived together? No. Has he ever tried to hurt himself or unalive himself? And he says no. Has he threatened to hurt you or your children? Yes. Does he have a gun that he can get easily, or he can get one easily? Yes. Is he violent or consistently jealous, or does he just have control does he have to control most of your daily activities? Yes. I want to see, I don't know if this is Dawn. Is he unemployed? Yes. Do you have children that he knows about? No. I don't know if this is Najee or his mom that wrote this. I thought I'd already read this out to y'all, but maybe I haven't. So we'll read it again. December 2nd, 2018. Upon arrival, I spoke with Dawn Woods, who stated that today her son, Brooks, was arguing with her grandson, Anaji, and her son, Daryl, began physically punching Anaji. Woods stated that she then tried to tell Brooks to stop, but he would not listen, so she grabbed onto Brooks's dreadlocks and pulled him off of Anaji. Woods stated that Brooks became upset and pushed her against the wall, causing her to hit her head. Woods stated that she was not physically injured by this. And again, an abuse victim. I'm going to call her a victim here and state that even if she was hurt, she wouldn't have said she was, just because she didn't want him to get any more trouble. Woods stated that she then told Brooks that he needed to leave the residence because it was not acceptable for him to put his hands on her. Woods stated that Brooks then left the room and came back with a handgun. Woods stated that she could only see that the gun had a black handle and she could not see the rest of it because it was a black gun holster. Woods stated that Darrell never removed it from the holster and never pointed it at anyone, but that he had it in his hand and made threats to harm her, causing her to fear for her safety. Woods stated that she then told Darrell that she was calling the police, and that is when Darrell left the residence and took her vehicle. Woods stated that Darrell has had permission to use her vehicle in the past, but not that day. So that little piece that we saw earlier. So this piece right here, this shows these questions, those are coming from Dawn. Okay, I have confirmed all this is coming from Dawn. It's on her report. While on scene, I spoke with Anaji, who stated that the original problem was between Darrell and himself. Anaji stated that Brooks was upset with him because he felt as though Anaji owed him money or a favor for driving him around last night. Anaji stated that he disagreed with Darrell, so they exchanged words until Darrell got so upset he began physically striking him. Anaji stated that Woods then pulled Darrell off of him, and Darrell then became upset with Woods. Anaji stated that he was not injured from being struck by Darrell. Anaji stated that while arguing with Woods, Darrell left the room to get a handgun and came back and began making threats to harm Woods. Anaji stated that Darrell actually pointed the gun at Anaji stated that Darrell never actually pointed the gun at anyone. He just had it in his hand down at his side, and once Woods said that she was calling the police, Darrell left the residence. So this wasn't a time when he actually tried to hurt his own mother. Okay, this is redacted, but it says I also spoke to somebody who stated that stated that somebody and Anaji were arguing, and it's got to be Brooks, and that Woods broke them up. He stated that Brooks then left the room and went to get his gun. Stated that Brooks usually sleeps with the gun under his pillow. Also stated that Brooks came back to the room armed with a handgun and started making threats to harm Woods while holding the gun in his hand, but that he never directly pointed it at anyone. Woods was issued a PB-17 and ordered into the DA's office on 12/3 of 2018 at 8:30 a.m. A temporary felony warrant for Darrell was entered into the system. If she did, she probably said, "Oh, but I don't want to file anything against him. He was just upset. He didn't mean it." Blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're going to pause here for a second. Okay, I do apologize. Bruiser the Chihuahua was getting a little pissy, so we had to take a quick break, have a little come to Jesus meeting, and let's resume. Miranda's interview. This was on Sunday, July 26, 2020. A Miranda's interview of Daryl E. Brooks was conducted at the Milwaukee County Criminal Justice Facility located at blah. This interview was conducted on the 6th floor, blah, 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 blah. You don't need all that technical stuff, right? Brooks was read his constitutional rights, Miranda card. This interview was recorded on Axon body camera. I was a full duty Milwaukee Police Department uniform. I was in full duty Milwaukee Police Department uniform. And I know what y'all are thinking as I read this stuff. Carrie, you got to go get all this information. Well, I'll see if I can, guys. I just don't know. I've had a couple of, I've sent in about 4 or 5 things, and only one's come back with a lot of information, which was the Waukesha one. So, and that was a special case. So we'll see. All right. Brooks stated he understood his rights and would answer questions and make a statement. Please note that this is a synopsis of what was stated by Brooks. Brooks began by saying he knows what he was charged for and wanted to know why he had a warrant and what his charges had come from. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Brooks gave an inconsistent statement about what had occurred on Friday, July the 25th of 2020. Brooks stated he wanted to work with law enforcement regarding the positive tested methamphetamine that was located with him on Sunday, July the 26th, 2020 at the time of his arrest. Brooks gave inconsistent statements about what the drug actually was and what he believed he bought. Brooks originally stated that the gun that was located at the time of his arrest was not his, but somebody else's gun. It was redacted. Brooks said that he had taken it from him because this other person was taking pictures of the gun on Snapchat and posting it on the social media app. Brooks stated he knew that the gun was in the house, but claimed it did not belong to him. Brooks stated he had no knowledge of any gun being fired and denied firing any gun himself. Brooks stated he believed that the pills that he had purchased were THC edibles. I advised Brooks that it was tested positive for meth. Brooks stated that he will do anything to make sure that such and such does not go back into the foster system and wanted to cooperate with law enforcement to prevent that from happening. I think he must be talking about a Najee. Brooks stated that he knew who distributes the pills that he bought and also knows where and then there's nothing after that. I advised Brooks that I did not believe his story and that there was nothing I could do for him to help him in regarding his case. Brooks then changed his story and stated he knew who had shot the gun on Friday. Brooks said that he thinks the gun that we took after he was arrested was the gun that was shot. Brooks stated that unredacted friend is identified as unredacted and that he lives in Menominee Falls. Menominee Falls. I then advised him that I don't believe him and his story that he was giving me. I advised Brooks again that there was nothing that the district attorney's office or I could do to help him. I advised him that he needs to be honest and that I need to know if he had shot the gun. Brooks then confessed, I shot the gun at the ground. It was not intentionally. It was not intended for my nephew. It was not intended to harm or hurt anybody. It was intended to get her the F away from my house. I asked him what had happened to the casing from the fired cartridge, and he stated that he didn't know, but that the casing hit somebody in his face and scratched his face. I asked where the bullet fragments would be from the gun if he had fired it from the gun and into the ground. Brooks stated it would be on the side of his house or in the front of his house in the grass. Brooks then stated he was being 100% honest with him. Brooks pointed his right arm straight in the air and made his hand into the shape of a pistol and stated, I didn't do this. He then lowered his arm and pointed it straight out in front of him and stated, I didn't do this. He then lowered his arm and pointed straight at the floor and stated, I did this. Brooks apologized for not being honest and upfront and again reiterated that he would do anything to help him and this other person. Brooks had then stated that the pills that we recovered from his house were believed to be ecstasy or MDMA. He stated that he takes them for himself and doesn't give them to anyone else. This is a synopsis of the Mirandized interview. To view the entire interview, please review the video footage, which, gosh, I wish we could get a hold of. Y'all know I'm going to try. All right, Greenfield Police Department was notified of a stolen firearm. The gun was inventoried and placed on Milwaukee Police Department inventory. The 7 unfired cartridges were placed on inventory. In plain view, I also located a small clear plastic baggie of multicolored pills. There were approximately 3 pills, green, orange, and blue pills. They were round in size. These pills were suspected to be methamphetamines. This bag was located on the blow-up air mattress as well, within close proximity of Brooks. This bag of pills was recovered and taken to District 5 to be tested. While at District 5, police officer Melissa Jacobs tested the suspected methamphetamine using NARC something 15 test, which tested positive for meth, weighing in at 0.93 grams total. Jacobs also tested the positively tested meth for fentanyl using NARC 2133 or something like that, which tested negative. The small clear plastic baggie with the 3 pills of meth was inventoried in Milwaukee Police Department inventory. All of this was photographed while on scene as well as at District 5 and submitted with the form. A criminal history search of Brooks revealed that he is a convicted felon in the state of Wisconsin and is prohibited from possessing a firearm. A search on Wisconsin Circuit Court access revealed that in 2011, Brooks was found guilty of a Class 1 felony offense. While on scene, there was also, in plain view and on the dining room table, what appeared to be stems from a marijuana plant, along with a scale. This, however, was not seized. Why wouldn't you go ahead and seize that? At the time this report is being submitted, Brooks had not been questioned regarding any of his offenses. Brooks will be questioned regarding this incident and the previous incident in the next coming days. The case is cleared by arrest. This is the case. I think this place that they're talking about where they found these drugs, this was his mom's house. On Saturday, July 25th of 2020, approximately 3:11 p.m., police officer Joshua Tryon and I, equipped with full-duty Milwaukee Police Department uniform and operating a marked Milwaukee Police Department uniform, was dispatched to Don Wood's house for a subject-warranted complaint. The original caller, identified as Don L. Woods, had advised Milwaukee police that her grandson was wanted and is currently at her home. Her grandson. Woods identified her grandson as Darrell Brooks and wanted check revealed that Brooks had a temporary felon warrant for an incident that occurred at Woods' home yesterday. Upon arrival to the location, I had called Woods via phone and asked where Brooks is located, and Woods advised me that he is still in the residence and that she would meet us outside. Woods met my partner and I in the rear of the location and advised us that he was inside the home and that he is the only person inside. My partner and I entered the residence with the permission of Woods, and in the living room we located Brooks. Brooks was positively identified by Milwaukee Police Department booking photo. Woods was taken into custody. It says Woods was taken into custody, but I think they mean Brooks was taken into custody without incident at approximately 3:42 p.m. While my partner took Brooks to the squad car, I looked around the living room where we had arrested Brooks. It should be known that within this living room was a large air mattress that physically restricted the movement of the common walkways within the living room. Woods stated that Brooks sleeps and stays in the living room. It should also be known that when we located Brooks inside the living room, he was seated on top of this large blow-up air mattress. In plain view, Woods and I located a black semi-automatic firearm, the same as described in the previous incident, placed within lunging distance. This firearm was located on top of the blow-up air mattress. This firearm was approximately 2 feet from where he was sitting when we observed him. The firearm was not in his physical possession, yet it was in his immediate surroundings and control. The firearm was black in color with a magazine inserted. The magazine had approximately 7 unfired 9mm cartridges within the magazine. There was no unfired cartridge within the chamber of the firearm. This firearm had a serial number of blah, 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 which lists to be a black semi-automatic Beretta 9mm when searched through the Wisconsin Department of Justice Crime Information Bureau. This gun was listed as stolen from Greenfield Police Department from September 27, 2018 agency case. They We got him on the possession of the firearm. They seized drugs.
In Georgia, Your Honor, the record reflects a May 27, 2021 arrest for misdemeanor battery with a designation of family violence. While it is not clear if he was convicted, he did recently remark to a court official in this county that he had served a 6-month jail sentence in Georgia. So we have not been able to verify if that was a conviction, but certainly there was a confinement in conjunction with that arrest.
Okay, this is a different incident, offense, and this was a battery incident reported on May the 27th of 2021. So just months before the parade. Location was a hotel or motel. He had some personal weapons on him. It says no gang involvement. It said there was no alcohol, no drugs found. Upon arrival, Simmons made contact with the complainant, Daryl Brooks, and his girlfriend. Oh, this is the one I enjoy reading. This is funny, y'all. Brooks informed Simmons that he had been constantly being harassed and threatened by a male subject at the location later identified. Not going to say his name because he's a victim in all this, for an unapparent reason. Brooks stated during a confrontation at approximately 100 hours, this gentleman brandished a firearm but did not point it at Brooks. Simons made contact with the victim outside the location. Well, I say the victim, he was a complainant. He denied brandishing a firearm, but he did inform Simmons that he confronted Brooks in reference to suspected domestic violence between Brooks and himself, I guess, or someone else, another person. He stated he overheard Brooks striking this person multiple times through the walls of the location. Y'all, we know it's a female. Simmons was unable to observe surveillance footage due to management not being on scene. Simmons observed the person's face slightly swollen with unusual black discoloration around the eyes. Simmons, Lieutenant McClure, and Sergeant Sterling of the same department pulled this person to the side to inquire about the suspected domestic violence. During the investigation, Simmons discovered that this person was struck by Brooks prior to the confrontation between Brooks and this other gentleman. This person the victim advised that the discoloration around her eyes was due to past domestic violence incidents and had nothing to do with Brooks. I bet this was Erica. The complainant provided a witness statement, and Simmons placed the witness statement in evidence. After hearing verbal accounts from the victim and the physical evidence observed by Simmons arrested and charged Brooks with battery. So he called the police, and he's the one that got charged with battery. I love it. Simmons placed Brooks in double-locked handcuffs behind the back and placed an index finger between the handcuffs and Brooks' wrist to ensure that they weren't too tight. Simmons searched and placed Brooks in the back of his unit and secured him with a seatbelt. Simmons searched the inside of the unit before and after transporting Brooks. Simmons transported Brooks to the East Point Jail in Fulton County, Georgia, and transferred custody of Brooks to the jail staff. No further action was taken. Isn't that gratifying?
He's also currently pending in Milwaukee County case number 21 CF 4596. That has a date of offense of November 2, 2021. He's charged there with resisting obstructing, felony bail jumping, second-degree reckless endangering safety in a domestic violence situation, domestic DC, and domestic battery. The allegations in that case, Your Honor, are that he struck the mother of his child in the face with a closed fist. Then as she was walking away from him, he intentionally ran her over with his vehicle. The vehicle in that matter described as what's believed to be the same maroon 2010 Ford Escape used in the allegations in this case. Police went to his home and found him getting out of that Ford Escape. The defendant ignored their commands to stop, and he tried to run into the house before he was apprehended.
That's right, Ted. This is not the first time Darrell Brooks has been accused of running someone over with his car. It's not even the first time this month.
So upon arrival, the victim, identified as Erica Patterson, stated that Darrell E. Brooks had run over her with his vehicle and tried to kill her. Patterson had tire marks on her right pants leg and stated she could not move her leg, as well as she had blood coming from her mouth. Patterson stated Brooks was driving his mother's vehicle, who she identified as Dawn, which was a maroon burgundy Ford truck. Patterson was very elevated and was hard to get a statement on scene. Patterson was later conveyed to the hospital for treatment. A witness identified, who did not know either of the parties, told police officer Bachman she was pumping gas, and she stated she observed a maroon vehicle run over Patterson. She said she stood by with Patterson until police arrived. She stated that she also did not see who was driving. Police officer Rodriguez and I changed locations at approximately 1:30 p.m. to the hospital to get an official statement from Patterson. In the interview, Patterson stated she has known Brooks for over 16 years and has a child with him. Patterson stated she had recently started talking to Brooks towards the end of April of 2021 and moved over here with him from the state of Georgia in the month of June 2021. Patterson stated over the past month that they have been fighting multiple times where he has injured her, but stated she has no intentions of calling the police. Patterson stated they had been staying at multiple different hotels since she returned to Milwaukee. Patterson stated she was staying at the American Inn located at blah 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 by herself, and she spoke with Brooks over the phone last night but never told him where she was staying. Patterson said that the next day, while she was still at the hotel, she heard loud knocking at the door and did not know who it was. She stated when she was walking out the door to leave, she observed Brooks standing there. Patterson stated Brooks was yelling at her and using profanity, and she tried walking past him when he intentionally snatched her phone out of her hand without consent. Patterson stated that Brooks then got into his vehicle and drove off. Patterson stated that's when she walked eastbound to the BP gas station, and Brooks followed her there. Patterson stated Brooks pulled up beside her while she was in the parking lot and was telling her she needed to get inside the car with him. She stated when she refused to get inside the vehicle as she was talking to him near the driver window, he intentionally struck her once in the face with a closed fist, causing pain and bleeding without consent. Patterson stated she got angry and walked away from Brooks, and that's when Brooks intentionally ran over her with his vehicle as she was walking through the parking lot of the BP gas station, recklessly endangering her safety and showing utter disregard for Patterson's life. Patterson stated she was currently homeless and nowhere else to go. She stated she was employed with a hotel and that would be the best address listed for her. She stated she had no other family in the area. The only cell phone number she could provide was her own, but Brooks had taken her cell phone. She stated she was willing to prosecute against Brooks, and all of his actions were done without consent. I looked up Brooks's information on the RMS system and observed that he had an associate identified as Dawn Woods, which possibly matched the information provided by Patterson. I conducted an open Wisconsin DOT search for Woods, which revealed her owning a maroon four-door 2010 Ford Escape bearing Wisconsin auto plate ADP 9256 that listed to her and Brooks' last known address. After conducting the follow-up at the hospital, it was determined that Patterson had a dislocated femur and a fractured right ankle as a result of her being struck by the vehicle. A Wisconsin DOT check revealed Brooks was operating after suspension when he caused the great bodily harm to Patterson. So I just wanted to bring up again, everybody was asking me, did he have a driver's license? His license had been suspended, and I've got some documentation of that, and when I go over his arrest record in a different video, we'll pinpoint exactly when it was suspended. I forget when it said, but it's been a while, I think. I observed Patterson to have swelling to her lip and dry blood from where she stated she was struck. I also observed tire tracks on her left pants leg where she stated she was injured. I filed an incident notification and contacted Lieutenant Finkley, who advised me it would be our investigation to handle. 2 other officers responded to the hospital and took 14 photos depicting an overall of Patterson and her injuries. Patterson gave her permission for me to contact the domestic violence hotline regarding the incident. I spoke with Consuelo at approximately 3:47 p.m., but Patterson did not want to speak with them at this time. Now they got to go find him, right? So here's the story of how they located him down. Looks like several of them located Brooks, which is his mother's residence, at approximately 4:25 p.m. as officers were approaching the residence, saw the suspect vehicle bearing Wisconsin auto plate parked on the rear slab behind the home. Newport had looked at previous booking photos of Brooks and positively identified he was the occupant exiting the driver's seat of the vehicle. Brooks disregarded multiple lawful orders by the police officer to stop walking away and not enter the residence. Brooks quickly ran into the house after stating, I have to get my mom, and closed 4 different doors as officers were directly behind him to avoid apprehension. Officers initiated a hot pursuit into the residence where Brooks was taken into custody and verbally identified. While Police Officer Rodriguez was inside the residence, he attempted to call Patterson's phone but could not hear any ring inside. Dawn Woods, who was inside the residence, gave permission for Police Officer Rodriguez to check her vehicle where Brooks was observed exiting. The police officer called the phone number Patterson provided and observed the phone ringing inside the vehicle. Woods handed Police Officer Rodriguez the cell phone, and we left the scene. Brooks was conveyed to District 7 for processing. A check with the Wisconsin Circuit Court access revealed Brooks had an open case under Milwaukee County, and conditions of his bail states he is not supposed to have any contact with his mother, who was at the location during the time of the arrest. Rodriguez conducted an in-custody interview with Brooks and will be writing a supplemental report. And this report is written by Newport, Police Officer Newport. On Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, at approximately 4:23 p.m., Officer Murphy and I assisted District 7 in locating a wanted subject for first-degree reckless injury, identified as Darrell E. Brooks. The suspect vehicle was identified as a red Ford Escape with a Wisconsin registration plate of ADP 9256. Upon arrival, Officer Murphy and I drove through the alley and observed the suspect vehicle in the back. I was attempting to convey the information to the District 7 squad car when the driver exited. I observed a previous booking photograph of Brooks and immediately identified him as the driver of the Ford Escape. I exited the vehicle and ordered Brooks to stop. Brooks started walking fast towards the house, and I ordered Brooks to stop again. Brooks stated, I have to go get my mom. I instructed Brooks to not enter the residence, and Brooks started to run towards the residence. I chased Brooks. Brooks attempted to close 4 doors on me to evade apprehension. Brooks ran into the northeast bedroom where his mother was located, and I arrested him. While I was securing Brooks, Brooks attempted to reach into his 2 front pockets of his pants. Brooks attempted to remove the Ford key from his left pocket of his jeans. After numerous attempts to secure Brooks from moving, Officer Rodriguez recovered the Ford key from Brooks's pocket, which was ultimately provided to Brooks's mother. I turned custody of Brooks over to District 7. One thing to note here on the witness form or the police report, it basically said when they came upon the scene of Erica, what was the victim's demeanor? She was crying and she was angry. What was the suspect's demeanor? He was nervous and angry. Both of them show no drugs. Influenced by no drugs or alcohol. She filled out this report, and the things that I thought were interesting was, number 3, do you think he or she might try to kill you? She said yes. Has he or she threatened to kill you or your children? Yes. Has he or she ever tried to choke you? Yes. Is he violently or consistently jealous, or does he control most of your daily activities? Yes. Have you left him or separated after living together or being married? Yes. Do you have a child that he knows is not his? Yes. Does he follow or spy on you and leave threatening messages? Yes. If there's anything else that worries you about your safety, he threatens to kill her. gracious, it's horrible. Oh, one thing I wanted to note here on this one, his birthplace was in Milwaukee, according to this. He spent time in California and Georgia and returned to Milwaukee in 2018. He does have criminal history. He's a lot of criminal history, which we're all going to go over. This case police report states he has no gang affiliation, which contradicts what he had previously, or what he says later when he's arrested for the Waukesha attack. Oh, let's talk about the scars and the tattoos. On his right hand, he has pictures of money bags. On his neck, he has BLAS. All right, I'm going to have to look that up because I don't know what that means. We know he has Xavier also on his neck. And then he's got the tribal design, Zay, an Airy, a Virgin Mary, crosses, writing names. He stated that he does know subjects that sells firearms, but stated that he didn't want to give me the details of the individuals until he knows what he can get in return. Says he is not drinking any alcohol, but he stated that he had smoked 2 blunts containing marijuana on 11/2/21 around noon. He stated that he's supposed to be taking medications regarding his mental health issues. He stated that he was in a motor vehicle accident in May of 2020 where he sustained an injury to his right knee. He stated he suffers from PTSD, bipolar, and anxiety and hasn't taken his medication since February-March of 2021. See, the thing about this is I feel like that's been their thing from the get-go. That's their story from the get-go. Mental illness, mental illness. This has gone on for years. We'll talk about that when I go over all his cases. Okay. In his interview, Brooks stated on Sunday, October 31st of 2021, his girlfriend of 16 years, Erica Patterson, had finished her shift at her job. Brooks stated that Patterson called him and stated that she accused him of having relations with other women. Brooks stated that he denied the accusations and stated that Patterson informed him that she was going to book a room at a hotel. Brooks stated that Patterson never informed him of where she was staying and stated that he would talk to her on the phone, but claims that he never had seen her in person since October 31st of 2021 when she left for work. When asked for his whereabouts during the incident, Brooks stated that he was in the rear of his mother's residence and stated that he never drove his mother's vehicle on that date. Brooks also stated that the only time he left the residence was to get Woods some fried mushrooms from JJ's Fish and Chicken, and stated that he walked to the location. When asked, Brooks stated he never observed anyone enter or exit his mother's vehicle on that date, and even though he alleges he to have been in the rear of the location where the vehicle was parked in the rear of the driveway. So he lied again. Brooks also stated that Patterson suffers from an alcohol addiction and stated that he believes that Patterson was under the influence of alcohol, which is why she's making the false allegations against him. I then informed Brooks that when police officer Gallegos and I were speaking to Patterson, we observed her to be alert and coherent and informed him that we didn't believe that she was drunk. I then asked Brooks about the resist obstruct incident that occurred with the P.O. Newport and police officer and he stated that he was seated in the driver's seat of Wood's vehicle, parked in the rear parking slab of the residence. He stated that while sitting in the vehicle, he observed police officer Gallegos and I squad vehicle traveling northbound. He said that he was having an anxiety attack upon sight of our squad vehicle and stated he exited the vehicle. Brooks stated that his intent was to go into the residence and inform his mother that he needed his inhaler. Really? Brooks stated that he didn't hear the officer's commands to stop, but stated that his main priority was to inform Woods of his anxiety attack. When showed a picture of the red Ford Escape at the scene of the incident, Brooks stated that the vehicle could be Woods. He blamed that one on his mama too. All right. Brooks stated numerous times throughout the interview that he loved Patterson and said that he would never hurt her. Brooks also stated that Patterson will recant the statements she made against him after she's done being mad at him for whatever reason. And we all know that's what he always says.
There's a long history of flight, obstructing, bail jumping type behavior, Your Honor. It's remarkable that these are violations all around the state of Wisconsin, not just his home county of Milwaukee, but we had convictions from Wood County, Manitowoc, and Langlade in northern Wisconsin.
What remains unclear is how a man wanted for child sex offender registry violations was not apprehended long before this horrific fatal crime scene.
Late tonight, police in Nevada tell us the warrant for his child sex offender registry violation in that state was a warrant only good for the state of Nevada. We're trying to get answers from the Wisconsin authorities and if they knew Brooks was wanted all these years in Nevada. What is unclear, like we said here, is why police from these two states were not communicating.
Yeah, I hate to throw out a cliche, but so many questions unanswered. Dave, you exposed there the offender warrant that was not acted upon despite years passing, despite years of him being in custody. But what now more specifically do Wisconsin authorities say about all the times Brooks got a low bond despite these other serious charges he faced?
Well, Brad, right now they're only saying they are conducting an internal review of how his bond or bail amounts were reduced, even as recently as last week. But we have more questions like what happened every time Wisconsin authorities ran his fingerprints at every arrest all those years? How did no one know he was wanted for a child sex offender registry violation somewhere else?
Ugh. I'm exhausted from reading that. That just took, years off my life right there just reading it. Can you imagine what it did to him? That's why he looks so rough in 2021. Look at how he's aged. He actually doesn't look bad for his age, but still. I want to say this one up in the top with a 2006. That looks like what he looked like when he was arrested and he did that documentary, that short documentary for a short period of time. And I look back at all this and I'm wondering at what point did he start getting the fake dreads? If y'all work with me here and tell me what y'all think. We know that the dreads were fake from 2006 forward, right? But I'm looking at the 2011 shots of his dreads and I'm thinking, yeah, they're probably fake too because they're a little bit too perfect, aren't they? I don't know anything about dreadlocks. I think 2007, that's probably his real hair right there. I could be wrong. I don't know. Let me know what y'all think in the chat. What is interesting is that sometime between 2016 and 2021 is when he got that stupid over-the-eye tattoo. And I've already forgotten what that over-the-eye tattoo says, to be honest with you. I think there's more mug shots, though. We're missing some mug shots. This wore me out. All right. I appreciate you guys sticking with me for this long because I know that listening to me read that long, it can kind of sound a little bit, it kind of run together, right? So I hope that I didn't make y'all fall asleep. I did find it interesting, though, some of the details involved with some of this stuff, because at one point in his interview with Detective Carpenter, he said, yeah, I've never been physical with a woman. That was the only woman I've ever been physical with, Erica. She just, she drinks and this is what she makes me do, blah, blah, blah. And then we have this arrest over here where this one chick has said that, well, actually, there's two different chicks that said that he got rough with him. And then, of course, even his own mother said that he pushed her. So there you go. But we know he's a liar. So, all right, guys, that is it. You guys have a blessed weekend. Take care of yourselves and one another. And I will see you soon. Bye, y'all.